All right, all right. Hello, hello. Welcome everyone back to the Happy Hour Show. I have a first-time guest with me, and I got another bro who is back, who I've also had the privilege of meeting in person. Rags down there. How you doing, man?
Dude, I'm good, man. I'm humble and I'm thankful and I'm alive in a bear market, so we're good, bro.
Absolutely. And right next to me, I've been trying to get this guy on the show for probably like weeks, probably maybe months now. He's putting out all sorts of great content, and I think you had mentioned you're getting like your own streaming setup, so we'll even see more from you. WaLLrus, man, how you doing?
What's up, brother? Yeah, man, I've been trying to get on here. I am genuinely sorry I made you ask so many times. I promise when I said yes, like a month and a half back, I was not kidding, man. It's fun to come hang out with you guys. Obviously, I love Rags too, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I got the setup here, got some lights, makes it look like I'm a professional now. So yeah, I'll be doing some more cool stuff, man. Trying to reach out, and you guys know I pretty much I'm a firefighter, man. I just move wherever the community needs me, wherever there seems to be a hole, wherever there's something to handle. So yeah, trying to move around, do some more content.
Well, a firefighter you are, but can you kill the rumor once and for all? Are you or are you not 7-time NASCAR great Jimmy Johnson?
That's pretty close.
That is the problem with being a shaved head white guy. We're pretty much all the same. It's just basically a beard style on a face. It's all the same. So,
Okay. I mean, you kind of sound like him too. Just just saying. So yeah.
I don't want to like just dispel the rumors, but no one's seen me and Jimmy Johnson in the same place at the same time.
I mean, 7-time champ, man. I'd be flexing a little bit, and can we get some PulseChain and HEX logos on your car this year?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. But
Well, another thing too, guys, I was giving Walrus a compliment. He's obviously lost a lot of weight because he looks damn good, man. So good work. Keep it up. You look great, dude. Keep it up, man.
Yeah, appreciate it,
and
man.
where did the name come from?
The Walrus?
Yep.
Man, so the first story is a little more fun. The Walrus is actually one of the nerdier things, man. So there's I actually really like Lewis Carroll's work. So the Walrus is actually a poem that's inside of Through the Looking Glass, the original Alice in Wonderland. And so Lewis Carroll has some really cool stuff. So what really stuck out to me about his work, if there was something he wanted to say, like a word he was looking for, if the word didn't exist, he would just make the word up. So like Vorpal and Fraptious, they're the Jabberwocky and all these things. Like he just made them up. Like if there wasn't what he wanted to express in a way, he would just make the word up. And it was just some of those interesting things. I was like, man, this guy's not even limited by the language. He'll just make it up as he goes. I was like, man, that's awesome. So that guy resonated with me. And there's this little small poem anyway. The Walrus is one of those things that I've always liked it when people can make things that aren't like traditionally cool. And so everyone's like rode with the Walrus name. So yeah, man, it's never going anywhere. I like it a lot. And then, yeah, man, on the weight thing. So I did boxing and mixed martial arts for a long time. So I wasn't always a chick monk with the big cheeks I've been rocking for the last year and a half, man. So yeah, I had got through a lot of depression stuff. Finally got some of that stuff all squared away, man. And that weight peeled off, and I've been trying to do a lot more work here recently, man. So feeling good. Appreciate it, brother.
Nice. All right. Well, there you go. There's the mystery, one of the many mysteries solved in addition to the Jimmy Johnson, or has it been? I don't know. Crypto Compassion. Everybody in chat. Freddie Quotes, lots of familiar names. Just want to say hi to y'all while the getting is good here early. Yes. See, look alike or the same person, Monica. I don't know. Crypto Sloth, what's going on? Lots of regulars, perhaps some new faces in here. K for K, last week's guest. Cuckoo Kachoo. Wild SJ.
I had a glow up. I literally lost enough weight that I went from Walrus to Jimmy Johnson. So don't believe kids out there that you can't have your dreams too. That's what happened.
There you go. DJ Cryptomatic, the raid has been completed. So we had you on in the green room there. Thank you. And everybody that was over checking him out on Twitch. Thank you guys for coming by. Who else we got? John JK. said Wild SJ, Footsteps, Sandy Beach. What's going on? What's going on? Man, we got a lot in here early. Is it Rags or is it WaLLrus?
Probably Walrus.
Or Jimmy Johnson.
I don't know, man. So Rags, you had your own, what do I want to call it? Like a
monologue, diatribe,
team building diatribe kind of thing yesterday. Could you just speak on that for those who haven't seen? I encourage you to check it out, after the show, of course. But it was pretty cool. I mean, you had some video clips in there, and it was kind of like a come together, kind of feel to it.
Yeah, man. So the whole theme of this was I played a clip from Christopher Walken, Pool Hall Junkies, when he goes in there and he talks about like his guy's losing, right? And they go to the bathroom and Christopher Walken comes up and he's like backing him financially. He can't lose. The kid can't lose this game. So Christopher, he's trying to pump him up. He's trying to pump him up real good. And he basically says what happens is you got a lion out there in the savannah and he's lying down, right? And you got all these hyenas and they start getting closer and closer and they start laughing at him and they start nipping at his feet, nipping in his tails, and the lion, huge mane, he's just laying back in the sun, just relaxing. And they keep getting closer and closer and more and more comfortable. Eventually, the lion stands up and tears the shit out of everything and runs like the wind, is what he says. And I just wanted to remind people that I think that Richard's about to stand up, and I think he's about to run like the wind. People keep coming in. People keep trying to nip at his heels. They don't give him the respect that he deserves. He built everything that we see right now. The reason we're talking right now is because of Richard. The reason anybody's in this chat is because of Richard. And nobody wants to give him his damn respect. And I'm just asking people to hold their influencers accountable and talk to them and say, where did you get this information? Where are these accusations from? And we need to get logical again. We need to get away from our emotions right now. We're in a bear market. Don't take it out on that dude. PulseChain's coming, and it is difficult. So to answer your question, my whole diatribe was to remind people that there is loyalty and there is family, and we need to be patient. That was my idea.
There you go.
Yeah,
I'm fully supportive of that, and so is K4K and many others, I'm sure.
And the thing, a lot of times to that exact point, we sort of surround ourselves with a coin and the idea. Hex has a lot of great properties. The code is fantastic, obviously. That's not why most of us are here. Most of us are here because we like each other and because we have a similar worldview on a lot of these things. That's it. We're not in a project. We're not in a coin. We're on a team. That's what it really comes down to. And that's why some of these things can be so tribalistic and difficult, because we care more about it than just a bag, right? Like, if we own Apple stock, no one here loses their mind if Samsung says something. That's because that's just an investment. But for these things, it's a community. Most of the things we do, most of the time I come and spend, a lot of the things I do are not plus EV. Like right now, I'm hanging out because I like you guys, because I like the people who are listening, and I want to do content. If I really wanted to make money this afternoon, I would go get back to work. This is an investment because it's where I like to spend my time and because I feel like it's of service. Most of us are here to be on a team. And I think that's one of these places we talk in and at each other. Sometimes we make it, we try to be as logical in those things. We try to be dollars and cents. Every problem is a people problem, man. Like, you're on a team. There definitely always needs to be that level of respect and camaraderie, because that's why most of us are here. Like, most of the things that I have money in, I do not spend 1/10 of the time that I do in this ecosystem. It's because I like everybody. I like the time. I like the appreciation. I like there's a place to put in value. We're here to be on a team.
100%.
Yeah, and I usually say, or often say that, that's the best, byproduct of this crypto ever, and it's the most unexpected reward. And I guess it's tied into the staking feature, and that a lot of people kind of feel, like you're going to want to get along with these people if you're going to hang around for 10, 15 years, something like that. So so I think it's a promoter of good behavior because of that. Whether, some people perhaps, might not get along in the real world, it does bring one another together in a different sense. So
it does. And if all this were to randomly go away, the only thing that's left are the connections that we've had. So that is what is important. Walrus, you said it great.
Oh man, now it's a party.
I mean,
that's what we're waiting.
now it's a party.
I mean, that's all that's going to matter when we're all dead, anyways. Is like the connections and the relationships and all that fun stuff, anyways. You know, so like that, I agree with that all. I'm 100% sentiment fully. So hey, gentlemen, what's going on? It's good to see you.
What's up, buddy?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Doing all right. Doing all right. I didn't think I get caught out as late as I did out here, and now I'm out and about still. So my apologies.
Looks terrible. Where are you?
It is. We're just chilling on the golf course here. So,
I'm just going to assume, judging by the background, that you were late because you were doing a lot of paperwork.
I was. I'm thoroughly in it's tax season. You know, you can tell I've got my tools right here. Yes, sir. Glad to be here, gentlemen. Glad to be here.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Did we get a golf cart tour of the course later?
You know, you actually could. We could do a little tour. I got the card out. I have to go back in with it. Oh wait, no, I got the key right here.
It's happened before. For those who have longtime viewers of Happy Hour, we've gone on golf cart tours with Big K in the past. So
we're gonna get one of those. This is where it started. This is where it ended, and it's him with the little background and the red wine. 20 minutes later, driving on a cart, reaching back for that case of beer.
Yeah, you know it. That's how I like to live. Nice and relaxed. Piece of beer in the golf cart. In a gated community where I can't get pulled over for doing dumb stuff.
There you go. Well, it's been a while, and I know we have certain fans of this in chat. Trayvon is not one of them, but there are a lot of other fans of the trivia. So how about we do ourselves around the first round of the new year? Y'all down for that?
Yeah, let's go.
Do it.
Some crypto trivia. All right. Let's put this thing together. This crypto trivia, by the way, is brought to you by the Tears of Hex Haters. All right, let's get down to it, gents. Big K, we'll go clockwise.
Yes, sir.
Name any speaker or panelist who appeared at last week's online HEX conference.
That is a very easy. I spoke there. It was me. How about that one?
Besides yourself.
You.
Rags, name one.
Aubrey DeGray.
There you go.
Yeah.
Walrus.
What about Hex Tangent?
There you go.
This is great. I like this talk.
Yeah, he's the type of guy. I like him, man.
I try to get you out of round one, so we're out of round one, and audience knows this. So the degree of difficulty should step up here very shortly. Big K. Yesterday, the SEC charged 2 firms with selling unregistered securities. Name one of those firms. Yesterday, the SEC charged 2 firms with selling unregistered securities. Name one of them.
The answer, good sir, would be Gemini.
Big K, you are correct.
Yeah, Winklevi's, guys.
Let's see, Winklevi. Rags, earlier today, and by the way, I haven't done this game in a while, so fair warning. Let me repeat the question. That'll give us our audience a chance to participate. Earlier today, Richard Hart tweeted, "Some hexicans are super duper bad at the risk diode. How to win. You don't promote blanks by mentioning them by name. You don't link to their socials. You don't follow them. You let them die in obscurity. What are those blanks?"
Trolls.
Earlier... I was going to repeat it, Rags, but good job. Walrus. Earlier this week, Bulgarian law enforcement raided the offices of what cryptocurrency firm? Hint, Richard Hart had also previously said this was the next to go, wink, wink. Earlier this week, Bulgarian law enforcement raided the offices of what cryptocurrency firm? RH had also previously said that this was the next to go.
What is bankless sponsor Nexo?
The correct answer is Nexo. Nice job, Sandy Beach, and your Hexcellence and Mudhog. Everybody in chat, good job. Big K, back to the online Hex conference. We'll go around the room one more time. Name a Hexican who had a one-on-one with Richard Hart at the end of last week's conference, or actually this past Monday. Name a Hexican who had a one-on-one with Richard Hart at the recent conference.
I'm gonna go with Crypto Coffee, and his my favorite part was when he congratulated Richard on all the sex.
Yes. My man Coffee. Yep. That is correct answer. There you go. Tea time. Yes, Crypto Coffee is an answer. Rags, can you give me another one?
Yeah, Johnny Chaos did a really good job. Had a lot of good questions. Tried to peel Richard back, but it didn't work.
Johnny Chaos is on the list. Walrus, can you name a third?
Wasn't it Hex Monkey? Didn't he have a couple of those crazy questions in there?
The Hex Monkey did, and that completes this round. So Papa B was in there, Crispy, Hexray Vision, Huddle Dog, and Sticker Guy were on the guest list.
I was on it too.
Big K, yes, you were there. I was waiting for you to say yourself, but you didn't. So
I was trying to be, all modest, but I can't help myself. I did.
You know what? Let me pump you up even more. I think you might have been my favorite segment.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I think I might have been Maddie's too. He let me run
yes, he did. Which I was like, just let him run if it's like really good, and he did. So that was a good call by Maddie. Big K, earlier this month, Richard Hart tweeted, blank pro tip. You can click the dollar value of a transaction and see what it was on the day and what it is now on Etherscan. It only logs one price per day historically, so it's not perfect. What type of pro tip is blank?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I'm going to go out on this one. I'll
repeat it one more time. Perhaps the answer lies within the question. Earlier this month, Richard Hart tweeted, blank pro tip. You can click the dollar value of a transaction and see what it was on the day and what it is now in Etherscan. It only logs one price per day historically, so it's not perfect. What type of pro tip is blank?
Was it an Ethereum pro tip? Is that what it is? Is it hashtag Ethereum pro tip or something?
No one in chat said Ethereum, but Big K, you are correct.
What?
It is Ethereum.
I was digging deep there. As soon as you were like earlier this month, I was like, oh, I'm screwed.
Rags to riches. Bitcoin turned, or Richard Hart tweeted this, Bitcoin turned 14 years old today. We are so early. Actually, I just ruined that question. So the answer is Bitcoin. Earlier this month, Rags, Richard Hart tweeted, heard about Genesis and Grayscale laying off 30 to 40% of their staff this week? ? Blank has no employees. You are the network. Efficiency. What is blank? Earlier this month, Richard Hart tweeted, heard about
Hex. Right?
Hex is correct.
Okay, good.
Good job. Thank you for, interrupting.
Keep cutting you off.
Keep
Cutting you off. Sorry.
Trying to get audience participation in here. But good job, chat. You're doing good.
Oh, that's the point. Okay, I got it.
Yes.
All right.
Good job, A-Bit and Mudhog and everybody. Walrus. Earlier this week, Richard Hart tweeted, in protest of the blank shortage, I'm eating fried chicken. What kind of shortage was he referring to? Earlier this week, Richard Hart tweeted, in protest of the blank shortage, I'm eating fried chicken. What kind of shortage was he referring to?
Eggs. Final answer.
Crypto Compassion, you're on it, and many others are. For a non-crypto tweet, good job, chat. Good job, chat. And Mel Tony, we are
nice
2.6 cents, or just
pump.
about. A bit correcting everyone's grammar in chat. When you type HEX, make sure you use all caps.
Except in his screen name, it's not in capital. What's going on?
Oh, excellent point there.
Wrecked.
A bit, you've been wrecked. All right. Let's see. Where are we at anyway? Big K. Name the hexagon who asked the community if they'd be interested in off-the-shelf hardware that are PulseChain validators, pre-synced, ready to go, little setup needed. I'll repeat one more time. Name the hexagon who asked the community if they'd be interested in off-the-shelf hardware that are PulseChain validators, pre-synced, ready to go, little setup needed. As we adjust our branding.
That gentleman. Oh yeah, there you go. There it is. There it is. That gentleman and scholar, and all-around good guy would be known as. Do I need to give his screen name, Synergy, or Alex?
There you go.
You?
Alex the Beard.
Alex the Beard. I like that. That's a good way to leave it.
Nice work.
He was always smart, but now with that beard, he is a wise and honorable man.
he's a crypto wizard.
His IQ grows every inch it grows.
All right. Rags to riches.
Yeah.
Earlier this month, Richard Hart tweeted, only the very stupidest of this class or kind of people believes in depopulation. The smart ones know who butters their bread. What class or type of people was he referring to? And I'll repeat it one more time for chat. Earlier this month, Richard Hart tweeted, only the stupidest, the very stupidest of this class or kind of people believes in depopulation. The smart ones know who butters their bread. What class or type of people was he referring to?
He wouldn't have said that. I don't know. I'm trying not to look at chat right now because
don't look at chat.
Honestly, I'm trying to do it honestly here.
Turn off your chat.
I remember the tweet.
That's partly my fault because I'm supposed to tell you to turn off your chat.
It's not turned off at all. He wouldn't have said. I would say liberals. Maybe. Maybe he would have used a different word. Maybe elites, or I don't know. That's all I got.
Was that your final answer?
That's my final answer. I don't know.
We will accept that because chat put that in there, and it's also rich. So rich. Elites.
Okay. Well, I'm going to turn my chat off now, and sorry about that, guys.
So that was your guess?
That was my only guess.
From chat? In chat? So
no, I thought it was liberals.
Crypty Girl did when she was on the show.
I remember. I thought it was wealthy at first, but I didn't think he would say that. And I didn't think he'd say liberals. So I also thought he's used elite before. Here I am.
There you go.
You could ask me another one to keep it clean.
I don't have many more. You guys have breezed right through these. So yeah. Walrus. Name the hexagon. Actually, no, we just did that. Name the fake fluencer who recently released his own HEX documentary. Name the fake fluencer who recently released his own HEX documentary.
So I have a ton of anxiety. I just keep feeling like you're just going to like throw in some insane, like on the 40th line of code in the ZK sync, just like a real heater. Tom Gillespie.
The correct answer is good old Tom Gillespie. There you go.
He may not be a hexagon, but that guy's a character, man.
Yeah,
is a
real
character.
character. He definitely, like, his entrance into the community threw me through. Like, whenever somebody's like unique enough to where I don't know how to take him, I'm like, what direction is this guy? But it's not terrible. That's not. I mean,
No.
it's not the highest of stakes, but
He
it's
never
not bad.
slipped up. He never slipped out of character either the entire time. We never got to see who he
Every
really
100.
is. Yeah.
Proof of beard. When hard questions, sir. Well, Beard, this is the last round of hard questions because this is about all I got, and then we go to tiebreakers. So here we go. Big K. In a lawsuit alleging he made false statements to investors, what crypto co-founder was sued by the New York AG earlier this month? In a lawsuit alleging he made false statements to investors, what crypto co-founder was sued by the NYAG earlier this month?
I don't know. Let me think. Crypto founder? Investor. You said crypto investor, right?
Co-founder.
Co-founder.
I'll read it one more time because all those words were in there. In a lawsuit alleging he made false statements to investors, what crypto co-founder was sued by the New York Attorney General earlier this month?
I don't know.
You have a guess. 5 seconds.
Gavin Wood. I know he's a co-founder, but I don't think he's right. I don't know. I'm wrong. Get me out of here, Cabana. There's lobster waiting inside this room for me, so I might take this loss and go take a little nibble while I let y'all duke it out.
The correct answer is Mashinsky.
Mashinsky. Oh, of course, that piece of shit.
Big K, you've been rugged. All right. All right. Well, we have 2 questions left, and there were 2. And then we'll go to a tiebreaker. Rags to riches. True or false? Richard Hart has over 300,000 followers on Twitter. True or false? Richard Hart now has over 300 followers. 300,000 followers on Twitter.
That's difficult. The number that comes to my mind is 260 something because he mentioned that. I don't know if that's on YouTube or not. I'm going to say on Twitter, I'm going to go say false. That was my first impression.
That he does not have more than 300,000.
300,000. Yeah.
Richard Hart has about 295,000 followers.
Okay.
Rags, you are correct.
Okay. Went with my gut.
False. Good job. All right. To stay in, before we go to a tiebreaker and move on to our idiosyncrasies of the cryptocurrencies, shout out Trayvon. WaLLrus, name the Hexagon who hosted the HEX online conference watch party in Salt Lake City, Utah last week. Name the Hexagon who hosted the HEX online conference watch party in Salt Lake City, Utah last week.
Oh, right here at the end.
They got progressively harder.
Man, I don't got this one. I saw a few people talking about they went and watched it there. I saw some of the pictures. They were cool. I don't remember who ran it.
Any guess? Name a random hexagon.
Man, who did that? I don't have a guess. I'm assuming it wasn't Joker.
Yeah, 5 seconds. Final guess?
I don't got one, man. I really don't know this one.
The correct answer is HEX-Ray Vision.
X-ray vision.
Oh, I hate to do this to you, Walrus, as you're a first-time guest, but Walrus, you've been rugged. It means Rags to Riches, Brandon of Texan.cc. You are the first winner of Happy Hour Trivia in 2023. As a prize, we let our winners address the audience. Take it away, Rags.
I don't deserve it. I feel like there was controversy. We need to replay this. And I know chats. I'm going to click chat back on to see what y'all are saying here. Yeah, controversy. But hey, thanks for having me on. That's all I got to say. Thanks.
No pep talk or anything like that?
No pep talk.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into the fun stuff, shall we? So, more fun things, I guess, before we get totally, into HEX topics, PulseChain topics, just general crypto. Just want to congratulate you, Rags, Crypto Heartbeat, Texan team. You had I guess, successful launch of the Texan token. So, just wanted to, get your thoughts on how it went, the vibe in the community, and your take on it real quick before we move on here.
Yeah, so it's a very, very scary thing to launch a token because there's no real SOP, right? There's no checklist typically, and a lot of times people are reluctant to help out for various reasons. But I think that all the credit goes to our developers for creating systems and checklists to make sure that everything went very, very smoothly. I can take almost no credit for any of this. So it went well. It was taken well by the community. Our Texas friends, they represented probably about from the donation phase, they represented 1,000 of the 836 wallets. And we've been continually having to teach them and onboard them. So went very smooth, very excited, great team. I can take very little credit.
And that's that. Walrus, you have a project that has yet to, be launched. But if you want to take a minute and, if you have any liquid loans updates, I know you guys are just killing it over there with the content. I know, Matt's just rocking it on different platforms. You have any updates? I know we're kind of just like waiting on PulseChain, but I don't know, man. Anything that you can provide? I assume everything's going fine. We're kind of just waiting for launch.
For sure. So now they got the call out. I'll go ahead and hit the little liquid loans flip. So thanks for shouting out Matt, man. That guy his content is so good. It's so polished and sharp. That kind of stuff matters. Like, it really matters as we progress. There's all these different voids to fill, right? Everybody will dig on different things. Some people they like hanging out in the very community conversational stuff. Some people want it sharp and polished, and you'll have that whole spectrum. So having different creators fill all these caveats is really important. Everything's going well for us. The bigger challenges are always on like the infrastructure side, since we're going to launch on PulseChain. So we do have another update where we're going to go through and add some of the functionality in the DApp and a few of those things. For people that are really, really interested and want to go through the weeds on it, CC did a video with Matt not too long ago. There's a few things that we're basically waiting on V3 because you need some infrastructure things, and you need to have aggregated data. So some of those features again will be active on V3. And this one will actually be an actual new set of contracts. So we'll have V1 and V2. We'll go through a few things. There's a few small things on testnet that people want to check out for, but that's what testnets are for. We're focusing a lot on content. That's what I've been doing. That's the reason I had to lose my beloved Walrus PFP, is just, we got to bring new eyes in, right? That's one of those things that I've done particularly, and I think a lot of people are doing in this space now is, I was an admin first and I spend time on Twitter. I do a lot of this education stuff, but people are smart. Everyone's picked it up. There's so many people. I don't need to do that, right? Like, you go in those spaces, like you don't have to go find a couple of experts to explain T-shares. There ain't no one in the space that doesn't understand T-shares. You don't have to necessarily go to Papa B now every single time you have a hardware question. Everybody in the community can answer those things. So we're changing up some of those things and trying to offer a different kind of content, trying to onboard people in different ways, because people like yourself, there's great content everywhere. I don't have to jump on and do these. We've got people doing such a good job. We're just trying to get in where we fit in and find new things. So a lot of it is, again, working on that marketing side. We've done a lot of blog stuff, so there'll be a big release of a lot of written content. Mostly, again, most of what we do isn't even LL specific. It's just education, onboarding, inspiring people. LL's functionality and things like that. As soon as the chain's live, it'll speak for themselves. Most of those things are polished in there, and a lot of what we're trying to do is just grow the ecosystem. So a lot of it's building all those extra things out as far as infrastructure, marketing, messaging, and keeping all those things polished. So yeah, we're really, really excited. It's cool to see a little positive energy around V3 and getting some more of those updates. And again, a lot of the community keeps everybody up to date on those things. That was something I tried to do, but again, everybody's watching everything like a hawk now. So
yeah,
cool. If y'all got it covered, then I won't do that part. I'll go work on something else. So again, as soon as the community pivots and adjusts and people pick up the mantle, I'll just scoot into something else where I feel there's a void, and I'll go do that thing.
Nice.
Yeah. Community keeps picking up stuff, man. I guess I'm just going to retire. Like, it doesn't take long, man. Everybody picks this stuff up quick, man.
Well, don't retire until the bear's over. So
yep.
we need all our OGs and whatnot, hanging around and picking this community up when it needs it. Speaking of bear, I did catch you, Walrus, on with, I think it was Money Gang Crypto, and brought up an interesting you guys had an interesting conversation about kind of surviving the bear market, and any tips that you've picked up along the way. And what didn't want to just ask you about it. I want to ask Rags too, obviously. Maybe we'll just go clockwise here. But Rags, do you have any tips for obviously days like today where we're pumping and the entire market's pumping and Bitcoin's close to 20K again? Makes it a lot easier, but that's not to say that we can't go right back down to 17K on Gemini or Genesis News or something like that. But I guess I'll start with you, Rags, and then we'll go down to Walrus. Like, do you have any, how have you survived the bear market? Like, what have you learned? Like, what are are things that have gotten you by, or that you've helped other people with getting by?
Yeah, I think for me personally, the way that I get by okay with all of this is having a firm understanding of where we are. I listen to the Fed folks. I listen to Janet Yellen, and I see what's coming, and I understand their strategy in terms of, where do we need to be to start cutting interest rates, and where do we need to be for the inflation part and all that. So having an understanding works. Having a plan for your money also works. Do not FOMO in. Don't get trapped out when you have these pumps, because there's nothing fundamentally that has changed about the economic situation. Everybody's talking about CPI being better, but then they quickly forget that the jobs reports really sucked in terms of us trying to turn things around. And the other thing I would suggest is if you guys don't need it, just uninstall Twitter and come back in about a year. That could be pretty good for you. Keep your close friends around, stay in some chats that you trust. But if you stay on Twitter, man, there are people out there that their job and their whole mission in life is to fudge you out of your bags. So stay abreast of the situation. Don't get trapped out. Remember, this is a long game. And then stay away from social media if it's toxic. It's not worth your time or effort, and things will get better.
Well said. Well said.
Yep.
Walrus, you can or can't, repeat what you said on Money Gang, but you had some good insights over there. How do you survive the bear market, or what are tips that you've given others to do such a thing? Hopefully we only have a few more months of this, or, it's great to, get a little pulse, like we've had this week or to start the year of hope. And, charts are, green candles are great. But who's to say, this isn't just, part of a bigger downtrend and we have more to go. So, possibly seeing that, say we have another 6 months of bear, what are things that, you do to get by in the bear?
So the big one that I brought up there was just emotional resilience. Like that's one of those things. Like if you look at people who are great at anything, they're very, very resilient to stress and emotion. They handle those things well, right? The most talented quarterback probably isn't Brady. Besides just winning, we love Brady because he's clutch, because he's strong, right? Like that's what makes that guy special. So like when you look at these things, it's again, part of it is having a plan. Part of it is not getting hood rich at the top and thinking that you're a billionaire now and all of a sudden wanting to live that lifestyle and looking at your wallet, thinking like, oh, that's just cash funds. That's a big part of it. So kind of where you start is usually how you finish. But a lot of this stuff is, again, it's just a lot of it's having a plan. And there's a few more technical things that I can chime in on that is, so if you want to sort of play, maybe not a day trader, but you're just trying to trade, you want to capture it on pumps, things like that. It's always kind of have a backup plan, right? Like, Rags brought up how scary it was to launch because there is no backup. It's out and it's out. That is what it is, right? So like if, for example, if you want to try to capture one of these hex pumps, go ahead and play with a small percentage of your bag, be reasonable, and then have it. Okay, I missed. I'm willing to just take it. All right, cool. I'm going to stake that back. I'm going to add it to a ladder. I'm just going to hold it liquid and not basically being like, oh, I missed and then taking the L. So if you're going to make trades or try to capture these small term movements, if you miss, have a plan for what that looks like other than just taking huge L's, right? So just, you can almost use it as like an accumulation side of it. Hey, I think there's going to be V3 news out. So you pump. It goes up. If you want to take a cut, cool. Do your thing. If it misses, that's where you got to be careful. Just add it to the bag and then wait for the next DCA opportunity. And this will be something that comes up commonly too. Like after we launch, if you want to provide liquidity or do some of these things, provide it in something where if you miss, you're still pretty happy with the result, right? So if you've never provided liquidity, maybe a spot is to put a small position and say PulseX and PLS. If you miss and you get a bunch of impermanent loss, the worst case is that you end up holding some different percentage of bag of those two things, and you're probably over the long term still happy. So just being emotionally resilient, having a plan, knowing what you're actually trying to accomplish, and then just being in things where you don't just take the L. So just relax and keep accumulating.
Yeah, we were talking about, I guess, some DCA in the green room there, and that kind of keeps me going in the sense of like, and I guess part of that, or a lot of it, is experience, to not go all in at once, to not be so full of be so overly confident that you can pick a bottom and just be like, what, the bottom's in, I'm going all in here, because typically you're wrong, and that's how you get wrecked. So it's DCAing that process over time, looking forward to dips. If you're DCAing, that's what you do. You look forward to dips, and it's like, oh, okay, well, market's up today, it's up for the next few weeks, don't have to do anything. But we make new lows. Oh man, well, I have some cash, some dirty fiat that I've been earning through my work or whatever, and I've just been accumulating it over here, and now that we've got new lows, I can put it in here. And then I was talking to Rags in Green Room. I was like, I've been doing that since June on major dips. I mean, if you buy like all the way down, you're gonna halfway wreck yourself, or it's gonna be way longer to recover. But you get a couple really nice dips in there. You can find some nice bargains, and HEX is finally come down. It hit a nice resistance level right below 2 cents there, and I hope a lot of people caught it. And so yeah.
So this ties into what Rags had said a second ago about like shutting off Twitter and some of these emotional things, along with that DCA approach. People fall in love with the chart, and they like let that thing control their emotions in a lot of ways, and not just from an investor, but I know people that have a bad day when they see red candles. They just have a bad day now. So one of those things about looking at these things is like, I don't care what the chart looks like unless I'm selling that day or buying that day.
Yep.
Like there's just entries and exits. So now these things are, so I think that like RH has a predisposition to talk about the chart because he's talking about HEX in entirety, right? And that makes sense. Again, we're on a team. There's reasons to view it that way. When you look at TA guys, so there's a bit of an obsession with the chart in the industry and in the culture. And if that's what you're doing, fine. But for most of us, it doesn't matter. Like I don't care that there was a drop off after we didn't get a V3 announcement. I wasn't selling that day. It doesn't matter to me, right? So there are certain things that you want to see some supports and a few things that kind of matter overall. But for the most part, I only really care about 2 points on the chart, where I bought and when I sold. That's it. I don't really care what it does in between. The chart could go all the way down, and then if it went all the way back up, the V doesn't matter to me. It was it's just ins and outs. So that's one of those things to just, again, when you're looking at the charts, there, I'll use some TA indicators to kind of adjust a DCA, but I don't buy because of a chart. I was going to buy anyway. I just may move it a little bit. I may move where my limit order is set. So I do it to tweak and try to make some educated guessing on these things. But for the most part, don't fall in love with the chart. Just pay attention to your own bags and accumulate. And you won't, by doing that, one, you're going to make better decisions, but also you won't let that thing govern your emotions.
Agreed on that. So one of the things I like to do, and we'll just I'm going to use, everybody stay with me. I'm going to use a stock chart, but we're going to look at some levels here. And this is kind of maybe, what you were partly speaking on there, Walrus. But so say you got this one here, and it's been breaking down since the beginning of last year, pretty much. And it's coming down, down, down. And you've kind of had this support level here for a while. And it's like, okay, well, back here was kind of the old high before we had this breakout. So maybe the first level I buy is right here. And it's just, you put a little in, think of your entire position, and maybe you put a quarter in here at this old resistance level. Or what's next down here? Okay, we have the 200 week moving average. So perhaps, you set your next buy there. And if we get some black swan like we had during COVID, it busted through that and it came right back. And, maybe it put some silly bids in, but otherwise you can see the pattern here, in this one particularly, it held above the 200-day, and maybe, you find entry points like that. And I had Vets and Crypto in the chat there, saying something similar to the Pulse launch. Have your plan ready for, when that goes live too, because if Richard Hart says, oh hey, Pulse launches in 24 hours, we don't want you to panic either. And that's the worst is, running around panicking, not having a plan, and making moves just out of FOMO and FUD and whatever signals are coming at you from who knows what sources. So thoughts, Rags?
FOMO's coming. PulseChain gets announced, and we'll talk about a chart. It's going to be weird. It's going to be weird because everybody wants that damn HEX copy. That's why.
Yeah.
So it's going to pump. It's going to pump hard. It'll be interesting to see what happens after that. But the folks that are kind of in my chat and streams, we just try to take thinking completely out of this. We try to take emotion completely out of this. We pick an amount of money that we plan an amount of money. So maybe over the next 6 months, it's $6,000 or $3,000. We find out how frequently we want to do it, and we just make it happen. And we don't think about anything else. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. I do that personally because Walrus, I used to be that guy. And I think we all were at some point where we're just staring at the chart and we're addicted to the chart and it's eating us alive. And we're out drinking beers with our buddies and we got the charts and we're doing this. And, Cabana does that already. He still does that, but everybody else, but yeah, just have a plan, guys. That's what it's all about. Have a plan and let the plan carry the burden of the bear market instead of your psyche.
The beer market.
I always like to almost always attach everything to a real life example, because I think I said this on that stream with Money Gang. Almost every industry always thinks they're special. They're not. It's dollar in, dollar out. It's companies, it's people, it's emotion. It's always the same thing in a lot of these, right? But to Rag's point, when it comes to one of the things to do on testnet is to just make sure that you know what you're doing. So the analogy I always use is when you drive a car, you just have to not hit stuff. When you ride a motorcycle, you have to let stuff not hit you, right? And I think that's the way it is in crypto. Crypto isn't just the normal volatility. You have to make sure things don't hit you. There's so many concerns with finality and different dApps. So if you're going to, hey, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna move from here and I'm gonna use this and I'm gonna use PulseX, you need to know how to do all of that without thinking now, so that you can make sound decisions, because you don't want to be going, wait, is this V2? Is this V3? Is this that? Is this a copy? Is it liquidity thin? Work through that stuff now, so that all you're doing at the time is just if then. PHEX is way up, you're making your call. PX is way too low, you're making your call. But you shouldn't need to think, where is this on PulseX, or I'm going to use this dApp, or I'm going to sell this coin in these wallets. Like, work through those things and get some reps, so that you're not thinking about what you're doing. You're just making decisions for the outcomes, and you'll be a lot better off. You'll be a lot less concerned. You're not going to make mistakes, because if people get excited now, wait till your palms are sweaty when that SAC money you ain't touched in 2 years is sitting there and it pops up. Trust me, you're gonna feel it that day. Just take a deep breath, be ready for it, and handle those things. Don't lose money doing something silly.
Boom. Clip that. Where's Kareem? Shout out to Kareem. Haven't seen him in a long time. Oh, actually, I see him on Instagram all the time out in Miami. But anyway. Yeah, well said, WaLLrus. Well said. I guess what else do we have here newsworthy to talk about? I mean, there's a bunch of topics that out there. I think you commented on this one, WaLLrus, if I can bring this one up here. So this one's kind of like a little too late, and it's it's like, of course, now like Gensler does something. It's SEC charges Gemini and Genesis with unregistered securities offering, lol. You deny like the Bitcoin ETF, and now you're going to go after these guys after the billionaires are fighting one another. And it's just like, I give me your take on it, but to me it just seems like regulation's coming. That he keeps shouting it, but they might be so far off on it, or just there's so much to even ponder for them that this is about all they can do right now is charge people with unregistered securities, go after a Kim Kardashian, or maybe this is probably a positive sign. I don't know, because they're doing these like general after the fact charges, as opposed to this regulation that we keep hearing about. So I know you had a take on that.
So most of the regulation that we see coming is pretty nonsensical for the most part. It's regulation to say there's regulation, but it really doesn't affect almost anything. Some of the scary stuff that's kind of leaked here and there has been a big deal. Obviously, like that stuff with SBF before Eric got on that interview. Yeah, that talking point was rough. But even the things with stable coins or some of the stuff, mostly it's just more nonsense for a lot of the central exchanges, and they're already pretty regulated now. So that's one thing that I challenge some of that workaround, that it's unregulated now. It's like, well, not really. I mean, there's a securities fraud, like theft is still theft. Like what are we doing in crypto that's not really illegal? There's a few things I think we do need some standardized policies on, but if you're stealing from people, you're stealing from people. There's some law somewhere, depending on the variant, that's going to say that, hey, you were stealing from people, right? With this one here, I think Gemini and Genesis are already wrecked. So I think this is them kicking a dead horse to say that they're still doing things in the community, and they're still trying to affect the industry. So I think this is a face-saving move. For the regulation moving forward, I think they want it muddied to some degree on purpose. And I've kind of brought this up. I draw some parallels between like the legalization of like marijuana and some of the pharmaceuticals and things. They don't, everyone's like, oh, we'll get clarity. They don't want clarity. Like, this lack of clarity and some of these barriers to entry on licenses allows them to control who gets to move in. So if Rags gets hit with a $50 million SEC penalty, Rags going to have to figure that out. You hit JP Morgan with $2 billion or whatever that penalty was, it's just a line item. It just goes on the P&L sheet. They don't even care. They barely acknowledge it. They have a whole group of guys that deal with it, and they just go on making money. So by doing some of these tactics and scaring people and having unclear rules, so like 1inch didn't get kicked out of the US. They just didn't want to deal with it. They just moved out on purpose. So that's the goal. I don't think the goal is nice, clear rules so that we can all go along and kumbaya and build stuff. When have they ever wanted that? I think that they keep it muddy because the players they want will either not get fined or can just pay the fine. And everyone else, where there's this beautiful low barrier to entry in crypto, you can just kick them. Like, you can just say, hey, we'll go get Kim K. I'll come get you. Yeah. I went and over here and I threw a huge penalty at JP Morgan, like they care, or
Right.
I'll come after Gemini and Genesis. So, I'll come after you. And then they don't have to, right? And they don't even have to use some of that oppressive nature. They can basically just show these things and use selective enforcement to quell and handle these things how they want. So it's the same thing with like a lot of these barriers to like accredited investing or some of these licenses. Some of them have a place. I'm speaking broadly. Most of the time, it's just so they can control who's doing it. It doesn't have anything to do with those people being smarter, more talented, protection of investors. Nah.
Yeah. And isn't it funny that, the timing is such that JP Morgan is getting into the game a bit now, even though Jamie Dimon
JP Morgan's
talks.
been here.
Yeah, but I mean, they're getting more into it. Fidelity, BlackRock wants to tokenize everything like stocks and everything like that. Like Larry Fink was talking about this morning. He also said that last year was a great year for accumulation, and maybe we're still in that wonderful phase. But once we're out of it, you're going to wish that you were accumulating. Rags, you got to take on that, man?
Yeah, man. Yeah, Walrus, you spoke very well about that. I think that there's a lot of things I want to say. I think the first thing that I want to say is a lot of times we take out the human element when it comes to politics in terms of motive. If you look at Gary Gensler, and you go back and you look at his classroom lectures going back 10 or 15 years, I think he was at MIT, if I'm not mistaken. He taught blockchain there, and they have a lot of those lectures up on YouTube. Many, many times he has come out and he has said that, based on the Howey tests, Ethereum is undoubtedly a security. And he goes through and does a whole lecture on it, pointing it out to his classroom and his students. Now, what happens here? Gary Gensler gets promoted. And by the way, he didn't just show up at the SEC, folks. He was chair of the CFTC. He was at the Treasury Department as the assistant secretary. And also he was the primary accountant and treasurer of the Democrat Party of, I think it was of Maryland or New York for quite a while too. He has deep ties to Senator Warren as well. You'll hear a lot of things that Senator Warren says, the same things that he's saying and vice versa. I think that Gary Gensler wants to be Treasury Secretary after Janet Yellen, who's 84 or 85, however old she is. She's going to retire soon. He is the type of person, and I've kind of dug in a little bit more on him. He's actually a long distance runner, right? So 50, 100 milers. He's not the type of guy that gives up. He's going to ascend. That's his. He's going to ascend. He's going to try to find the pinnacle of whatever industry he's in. And I think that he is virtue signaling to, quite frankly, the Democrat Party, because he is a Democrat, that he can handle these things. And he needs to come with some high profile cases that he can tout when he's trying to make the case for himself, when he's being interviewed by Congress, that he should be the Treasury Secretary. And I think that that is kind of what's going on here. Now, why do I think that? It's because what he's doing makes no sense, really. The damage has already been done by these exchanges. It's like writing somebody a ticket for a stop sign that's not going to exist for the next 20 years. That's essentially what he's doing right now. So I think that when you look at the human side of this, I think that Gary Gensler has motives that are playing out in real time in front of us. And then I think on the other side of this, regulation is just code word for lack of privacy, or for stealing privacy and security. Now, why do I say that? Look at this bear market. Is Uniswap insolvent? No. Any of these DEXs insolvent? No. So what can they come after? Why would they be talking about crypto in such broad terms like that? It's because they hate the fact that DEXs don't do KYC. And I think that you're going to see more and more of that happen as the CBDCs get introduced as well. They're going to attack stablecoins. They're going to replace it with CBDCs. And then they're going to require DEXs to do KYC unless people push back. So that's my thoughts.
Well, boom. And just so happens that I have CBDCs and stablecoins as a potential topic here.
Can I just one other one there real quick?
Yeah, man, go for it.
So one of these regulations that like particularly affects LL, and it's something I keep up with quite a bit. is that CBDC stablecoin regulation. One of the things I always like to bring up in people's minds, because stablecoins are not that interesting a topic to a lot of people. They're just, it's just a tool they use on the side, right? It doesn't have any glitter. So why is there CBDCs for stablecoins? How come there's no central bank Bitcoin? How come there's no, they don't care, right? It's because they control that money supply and the way the money comes into the system. That's where the power is at. That's why you see Silvergate and JP Morgan. JP Morgan has a coin. It ain't on Ethereum. It's on Quorum. It's on their private permission version of these things. So the way a lot of these players come in and do things isn't the way we think. And that's one of a couple of those things I want to push back on is when institutions come, we'll have adoption. Institutions are already here and they're not going to come buy your bag. That's never happened. JP Morgan isn't late to parties. They throw the parties. Fidelity isn't late to parties. They throw the party. Those guys run stuff. They don't come in here and buy your bags up. That's just how stuff works. So those guys come in and they don't come in the front door. They come and set these things up in a lot of ways. That's why they're in consensus. That's why they're in a lot of these things. So one is on the stablecoin regulation, because again, always caring about these things for a long time. It was the reason I was interested in L before I even came on board. I was always like, hey, it's a stablecoin factory. It's about stables. It's about stables. It's about stables. So there's an interesting thing. So what I was going to get to, just for people who are always concerned about the regulation, literally every single one that gets put out in the US, I go through them, and I try to go through the ones in Australia as well. The way they're regulating stablecoins is they usually use the definition payment stablecoin. And what they mean is fiat-backed one-to-one stablecoin. So USDC, USDT. I don't think that what you see with like DAI or RAI, RAI, LUSD, USDL, I don't think any of these are going to fall under the definitions that they're using currently for payment stablecoins. So that does present a couple of things that are interesting. One, that's awesome. I don't really want to be regulated by those guys. It doesn't help anything. They have the same problems. There's Bernie Madoffs, there's SPFs. When they fix something, then we'll be happy. Till then, they're just causing people friction. The other is kind of interesting is we may have to stop calling those things stable coins. One, because now there's a regulatory definition for what that means. And two, since there's a definition, if you keep calling something a stable coin, then by definition, you want it to be regulated as one. If that's been a common problem with a lot of things, where if you say something is something, then you end up inadvertently triggering to be treated that way through regulation. And this shows up in a lot of things. Like a funny one is if you sell fake drugs, you still go to jail for drug dealing. Like, I know it's a funny one, but like there's a lot of these places where if you call something, it will be treated as something. So there's in the future that may be an odd pivot that has to go. It won't change any of the code or the way it's handled or any of those things. We may just have to literally stop calling it a stable coin and just pivot to another name, which has some value there. There was the last one is this is a spot. So segue. One of the issues I have, because I've been doing a lot of research and work on this, on Grayscale and DCG and Genesis and just Gemini connection. So where I actually think, besides just liquidating a big trust is a problem, where I think it's a big problem is if you look at this from the outside, this is a trust. This should be the simplest, cleanest legacy product, and they screwed this thing up. So that's a problem where I see from like outside confidence of institutions. So even though the trust has all these rules about, not having encumbrance, not having, outside players taking loans and all these things, we didn't get that because inside the Grayscale trust is wrapped up with DCG. So now it has the exposure to them lending to Gemini, and it has the exposure to Foundry, which is owned by DCG, which is getting wrecked on the Bitcoin mining side. And they have exposure to CoinDesk, whose traffic is down 80%. So even though it's a trust and it was supposed to be a nice, clean legacy product, they ruined that by wrapping it up. So like we see this in traditional stuff, like how JP Morgan and investment banking gets handled is, at least on paper, different than what you see at Wells Fargo and traditional banking. And that's somewhere where I keep saying, I've been using this multiple times, the term standardizing. I really just mean regulation, but I don't mean from outside parties. So a clean way that would have made a huge difference here is the Grayscale trust could do some things for redemption to fix some of the arbing on the share price. But if it had just stood alone, it wouldn't be having any problems. The Grayscale trust would be fine. So a standard practice could be, if we want to offer legacy trust products, that they're not encumbered by all these other things that DCG did, and then we wouldn't be worried about this thing being liquidated.
And there you go. So
I'll get off the soapbox now.
no, it's all right. So we were talking about CBDCs, stables, and I think you might have mentioned it because I've watched a bunch of pieces of your content. It might have been on the Money Gang stream as well. You're talking about onboard, using them for, are they better for onboarding, or you think it's going to be like a censorship tool kind of thing? So it's like pick your poison, or how do you approach that argument or side of things?
Well, the UK minister said they're not going to track it, so I don't have any more concerns. What do you guys like? No, we're good. They're not going to track it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Moving on. So one, obviously, that is the most nonsensical thing I've ever heard said. Like, who believed that when he said
it's okay, guys.
Yeah, wink, wink.
Yeah.
So there's sort of two ways these things will be released, and most people are a little more bullish on the adoption side than I am. I would like to have that side of it. If you look at the pilot program from Hong Kong, they're essentially releasing a coin that functions almost no different than USDC, USDT. It's just backed by a government rather than a separate institution. It'll have all the same admin keys, probably the same lack of documentation on how this thing is backed, same issuance issues. And so a very similar risk profile to what we see currently. And then that would operate in the DeFi space. Where we could have some extra problems is if the way some of these things are done with like Quorum, consensus mesh, and a lot of these guys are working on the backside on multiple different CBDCs, is if they're released on something like Quorum, like we talked about with JP Morgan, where it's on a permission blockchain in the first place, in which case it doesn't work in any of the ways that we think of. It doesn't interact with DeFi. You don't get to wrap it and move it. It's almost no different than traditional banking. They just updated the software. So that's the side of it where I have more concern. And hopefully there isn't another tragedy that or disaster that they take advantage of. So I think that if they go the fully permissioned Quorum, where they have just front to end control, I think that they'll try to roll it out through some form of UBI or whatever the next disaster is as a stimulus, because this is how you attack most things, right? Like this functions everywhere from like the NFL Player Association to general economics, is you can basically destroy the middle and sort of the top that isn't you by just bribing the bottom. So the issue that we'll have is that if you say, hey, Rags, hey, Cabana, hey, Walrus, here's $1,000 of whatever, CBDC, we're probably in a position and have an understanding that we can say, no, go F yourself. I don't want that money. I don't want to use it. But if you're broke now, or you're out of a job, or you're dealing with COVID, not everyone has that prerogative. They don't have that privilege to be able to say, hey, no, I don't want that free money. They're going to take that free money the same way people take airdrops in crypto, no matter what it is. If you put $60 in someone's wallet, they Uniswap it and they spend it. So that'll be where I see some of the issues. Hopefully we get something closer to USDC, USDT, what we see out of the Hong Kong pilot, and less of the tyrannical 1984 George Orwell's, greatest creation thing that we see with Quorum.
Any thoughts on that, Rags?
I mean, you take a look at that, you take at that rollout, but then you take a look at Nigeria, where they banned ATM withdrawals to force adoption of CBDCs. And it's scary stuff here. If you go back and Walrus, you're on point with all that. In fact, I'm afraid to talk about it because you sound like you know so much about it. Don't want to embarrass myself here, but if you go back and look at the executive orders that were issued by the White House to basically take all the agencies, have them work together, research and figure out the best way to implement a CBDC program. And they're working with some of the Ivy League schools right now to do that. If you look at the actual documentation, what is really strange about this? Now, we're talking about economy. We're talking about CBDCs. Why are they bringing in experts on gender studies to talk about CBDCs? Why are they bringing in experts on climate change when talking about CBDCs? Why are they bringing in experts on wealth inequality when they're talking about CBDCs? And here's why. I believe, based on my research and based on looking at those papers and based on looking at each of the Federal Reserve folks and all their comments on this, they are looking at CBDCs as a way to redistribute wealth This is the great reset in money, in my opinion. Now, one of the articles that I read speculated that if you're a person that has a net worth of over $1 million, okay, and you know, whatever this process looks like in the future, let's say that they want you to switch over to CBDC use within a 5-year period. Well, for every dollar that you have, if your net worth is over $1 million, they're going to give you like maybe 75 cents on the dollar for the CBDC. However, what if your net worth is $10,000 or less?
You get a bonus.
You get a bonus. You get $1.50. Is that fair? Well, now it makes sense why in those executive orders they're looking at those sorts of things. These are redistributed, and I use the word socialist by the literal book definition of what this is. Like this is what's happening. This is what's going to happen. And if you look back in history as well, there's a pattern that emerges. You have a country that goes into debt, then they have a deficit, and then they issue money and they debase their money. Okay. This happens over and over and over until those bubbles pop. Every single time that bubble pops, it falls, but it falls higher than the original. Falls higher than the original. And after a while, you have a situation where this money just isn't going to be worth anything. And what do? Boom, press the reset button. Let's just make all this debt go away. CBDCs are here to save us. Okay. I don't think that politicians on Capitol Hill are smart enough to understand the intricacies of most of any of the conversation that we're talking about right now. But there are a few up there that do. And there are a few up there that see this as a massive opportunity to seize power from the people on a global scale, in my opinion. And also, you know, to use some of those CBDCs, there's going to be caveats with that. There's going to be government controlled wallets that those things are issued with that you have to KYC yourself. You know, what happens when they decide, oh, well, this person looks like they're doing some nefarious stuff. They hit the kill switch. All of your tokens are invalidated with no due process, even if it wasn't your fault. Like, people call us crazy now, but this is what humans do on long enough time frames. It's bureaucracy is very corrupted. So yeah, that would be my addition to that. And I find it very, very frightening, especially when so many people that are making the decisions for us don't know shit about what they're talking about.
Then just real quick, when Rag says things like nefarious, most of us think of nefarious things. Let me give you some things that are going to be nefarious. You ate too much meat. Your carbon footprint's too big.
Bingo.
You drive too far away. You're putting out too much CO2 emissions. Hey, the economy is slowing down. It's your responsibility to speed that up. Your money's been sitting around. You've got to speed up that money. You've got to spend all your money in the next couple of weeks. Hey, you have too much money. You got to slow down. You can't spend any more money. That's stuff that's nefarious. Hey, you're attached to radicals. I don't have to make a definition. I can just say radical. That's the stuff that comes with CBDCs. And I hear people explain that like that happens now. That, okay, there are limited cases. But when you do that now, it takes a lot, right? So if you want to come and shut down my ability to spend money, I mean, me particularly, this is something I concern. So I've got things spread in a lot of ways. So that's difficult, which is the point. But if the primary means of exchange of value is one thing, and I consider and monitor it, and I can just hit the switch, it's very, very different. And again, as Brandon said, they're going to bring all these experts in and give you all kinds of wonderful reasons why they do these things. And all it's going to do is keep stripping rights and freedoms away. And the thing about governments, when they take something, they don't give it back.
Nope.
Oh.
When they do these things at airports, they never went away. When they add restrictions, they never went away. Most people don't even realize there's still emergency orders and emergency controls and powers all over the country. They just keep them. They don't give it back.
The CBDCs are lubricant for tyranny, bro. I mean, that's what they are. It's crazy. It's crazy.
But they won't track it or anything.
No, not in the UK. We'll be fine. That's where we'll go.
Yeah.
I mean, they track your social media to make sure you don't say mean things, but why would they track your money? I mean, come on, guys. It's a totally different thing. Totally different.
Exactly. All right, moving on to brighter subjects. Let's get
Everybody
on
just
here.
got a 17% pump or something on the day, and we just ruined it for
I
them.
know.
Keeping it real in the bear, boys.
Got to.
All right, that's exactly. This is kind of interesting. So I just saw this headline. Do you have any take on this, or Walrus? I know you're also, a secure person, but MetaMask staking beta is now live with Lido and Rocket Pool. Lido, however, I always say Lido just because Florida. Consensus says. So with the new service, users can connect to stake their ETH and receive liquid staking tokens directly from the staking provider within the Web3 app. Those who wish to swap back to ETH from liquid staked ETH may do so via MetaMask swaps from within the staking interface, subject to fees. Wink, wink. Any take on that one?
So this one there's a few things there that are important because now the PulseChain is going to be on E2.0. These things matter to us. So one is Lido and Rocket Pool there's a couple of bigger issues with this. But first, if you have to ask a Walrus online if you should do something beta in crypto, the answer is absolutely not. Do not touch stuff. So in crypto, you should always do less. And most of these things, if it's beta or difficult or any of these things, if you have to ask, the answer is you should educate yourself and probably never do it until a certain point. So the answer is always no. Hey, should I be a liquidity provider? If you have to ask, no. Hey, should I do this beta thing? No.
Good point.
Again, so we always want to educate, but like the answer is like on most of these things, if it's difficult, a process you don't understand, or beta, and you have to ask, the answer is no. So you want to start there. The things that I want to bring up is that one, Consensus and MetaMask are not DeFi in any way. There's not a single thing decentralized about them. Those guys. One, JP Morgan has an undisclosed investment in them. They are part of the people putting out a lot of this documentation on CBDCs. They scout data in multiple ways. So those guys are not your friends. With Lido and Rocket Pool, there's two issues. Both should be very concerning to most people. One, you have to give up your keys. You're staking through people to provide validators. I don't like giving up my keys. That has historically not worked out very well. So I don't care about 4% if it means I have to give up the bag.
Pennies in front of freight trains. So yeah.
The other is that when you go through Lido or Rocket Pool, these big players. Okay, so this gets a little tech heavy, but I'll give it the really simple version. So when they run validators, one thing validators do is called MEV. So in a proof of work, it's called miner extracted value. In a proof of stake system, it's maximal extracted value. So none of this stuff matters to you guys. But why it matters is they want to run MEV so that they get a lot more yield when they run validators. So for example, if there's a MetaMask company, Consensus behind them, and then Lido behind them, how is it they can still pay you out 5%? Because they're making more than that and they're holding your stuff, right? So where does that extra yield come from? It comes from this MEV programs, right?
Ugh.
So the company that does this for most of these big players is Flashbots. Again, all that stuff doesn't matter. It's just framing. But Flashbots runs their software to be OFAC compliant. So the reason that if you ever look at MEV Watch and you see all this censorship going on contracts on top of Ethereum, it's actually not the validators doing it. It's this software they run on top, like another client, to get extra yield. So when you stake through Lido or Rocket Pool, you end up supporting the validators who are censoring the transactions. So again, just for the ideas, if you stake through these guys end up censoring transactions. When you look at how it is on Ethereum right now, between 50 and 70% at the time of blocks over the recent timeframes are OFAC compliant. Again, a lot of those big words made this stuff isn't that comfortable, but let me put in a pretty quick sentence that makes it simple. OFAC is the Office of Foreign Asset Control. They're the ones who sanction Tornado Cash. They're a department of the U.S. Treasury. And now, if you look at the way that stuff's done, Ethereum has more censorship than SWIFT, the traditional banking system. SWIFT doesn't have censorship at the base layer. If you look at the way SWIFT handles these things, it's slow and cumbersome and terrible. But on top of that, it's the banks in the next level that handle censorship. So SWIFT just does money processing and emissions, but it's the banks who handle the censorship. Now we have a problem where the decentralized network where most smart contracts exist has less censorship than the traditional banking system. That is a problem.
Dude.
So stay away from those guys.
And Walrus, I want to say this because this is kind of a narrative that I think I've heard you talk about before and a few others in the community. A big selling point for PulseChain is the lack of that OFAC. That's huge, guys. So what he's saying is this OFAC master list, and you can go to the website and you can see this master list right now. It includes wallet addresses, it includes entities, it includes people. When PulseChain forks, not only we're taking that system state, we're bringing it over. Our validators are not going to be associated with OFAC. Now, what's the problem with OFAC? If you're concerned about privacy, if you're concerned about government overreach and things of that nature, PulseChain is going to be one of the only viable options in all of crypto in the whole world that will make people feel more comfortable when it comes to their privacy. So I think that can be something that we all, latch on to as we get closer to PulseChain, and that could be a marketing tool to a lot of folks.
100%.
Yep.
It's a big deal. Again, consensus is JP Morgan. They run with Metamask and all these guys. And the last little quick small piece on that is sometimes there's a bit of an issue when it comes to privacy and secure systems, because the people who care the most, sometimes they don't let this stuff affect them, because like to me, well, I'm going to end up running validators, and I use graphene, and I have Tor bits, and I use all kinds of stuff that makes sure that those things are segregated. And I use different connections, and I've got more phones than El Chapo. So whatever these guys do, I'm going to have secure ways to do that stuff. The point is, I'm one person, and I can lose the systems that I use to do all these things if we don't educate people and understand that value proposition. The reason we came here in the very first place, the reason number go up, was censorship resistance. And we're losing it quietly because they're doing it in a way that doesn't affect user experience.
Bingo.
So that's the idea. That's the reason they start with radical stuff. It starts with radicals. It starts with Alex Jones. It starts with these people that no one's going to defend, and they do it in a way that doesn't affect user experience. So now when you hear me, Brandon, these people say, hey guys, this is a big deal, everyone goes, what are you talking about? I've been using Ethereum with no problem.
It's already too late when they know. It's already too late. Evolution, not revolution. That's what they go by. And
so last point, one is, if you do believe in OFAC and you think that we are radicals and that we're crazy and that we're wrong, one, I would go take a walk. You have a lot going on in your life. But assuming that was right, you don't want every jurisdiction to be forced to follow those rules. If you want to follow those rules, if you want your jurisdiction to be held up, fine. Those things can be handled at front ends. They can be handled in a lot of ways. They can be handled in wallets. You don't have to break what everyone else built to do those things to be compliant. This happens with everything. Whether it's LL, the stuff that we do. Let's assume that you want to do that, but for whatever reason, it breaks the jurisdictional rule. Fine. The whole point is you go build the front end. That jurisdiction go build the front end and add KYC and add interest or whatever these things that you guys want to add. That's fine. That's why stuff gets built this way. It's built in a way they can do this. So don't ruin what everything came here. Even if these things aren't affecting you now, they matter. They're going to break the thing that allowed number to go up. So it just matters. Take some time. Again, Alex doing these cool things. It's always nice to be involved, and you can do these things as a tribe, whether it's validators or RPC. Some of the stuff, even if that stuff doesn't make sense, have one person out of 100 can run them, and then 100 people are now secure and don't have these problems. Yep. So we can be centralized in ideas and decentralized in how we execute them, and this stuff matters. Like, these things will be a big point, and I agree. It should go add back to the narrative that, oh, you don't want to be censored. You don't want to be OFAC compliant. Cool. Come play in our sandbox.
Yeah, I forgot who tweeted it, but there's a cool world map of all the PulseChain, I guess, testnet validators. And I mean, they're everywhere. And that, I guess, was another point too. It was a point of attack for the government. I think I refreshed my memory, but it was regarding Ethereum. And it was like, oh, well, a lot of the nodes are being run in the United States, more than 50%. So, that, I forget what case it was. It was about 2 weeks ago. And they cited that as,
if you have a majority of nodes operate in a single jurisdiction, then that's the jurisdiction you operate in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and that's the route that they were, possibly setting up for future cases if, potentially they, win whatever that case was. But yeah, it's sneaky stuff. And we talked about it at the beginning, is like they'll throw a lot in there to keep it murky, and try to pick and choose.
Yeah, if you hear people in the chat, if you hear folks, if you hear news articles, if you hear talking heads trying to turn crypto into the traditional finance system, your red flag needs to go straight up. Because 2008, the Satoshi white paper was a direct reaction to everybody being fed up with that. And over the past decade and a little change, we've lost our way here. We're trying to turn crypto into the traditional finance, and we don't want that. We don't want that. So question everything that comes out. This sounds anything similar to what it looked like in the past.
Agreed completely. And WaLLrus, Becky, you mentioned Alex, and it was, of course, one of our trivia questions, but he put out that tweet. Do people want to be able to purchase an off-the-shelf piece of hardware that's a PulseChain validator, pre-synced, ready to go, little setup needed? And 69% said yes in the poll. So, I mean, you have a community member, no expectations, and he said, there's a lot that still needs to be explored, but how cool is that we have a leader such as Alex, who has founded his own product, whatever you want to call it, successfully, I might add, and he's willing to make this kind of contribution to further decentralize something that's not even out yet. And that's just a huge effort, potential undertaking. But yeah, man, that's exciting to me. Like, and you see people responding. How many people responded to this? Like 1,600 people responded to this, and the majority of them were like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to be a validator, kind of thing. So.
And there's a few things. So you can run these in simple ways. E2.0's mechanics around slashing and some of the stuff. Again, if you're gonna be a validator, you'll get this figured out. It's a little less sensitive than the model we would have seen previously with the delegated proof of stake. The issue is to understand that a validator in some ways is kind of a job. Like, you're going to probably want redundancies on power and probably on internet connection as well to make sure that you don't get slashed. So these things can they can evolve a little bit. So there's certain things where you do want to have a good amount in data centers because there's extra redundancies and they'll have uptime, but you need enough resilience and all these other things to make sure that we don't have jurisdictional risk and to make sure that these things are harder to shut off, right? So it's the reason that decentralization is hard. It's the reason it's not the default. It's a price we pay to get an end result. So again, kind of going back to these things, if you didn't understand a word I just said and you don't understand why this stuff is a big deal, it is still important to get, and you can still go support Alex and these other people around to understand that, hey, like, you can stand on the shoulders of giants. It's fine. If I brought this up with a lot, whether it's liquidity providing or these other things, it's fine if that isn't your cup of tea and you're just here for the memes, the hexagon and number go up. There's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure you're supporting these other people that are putting in a lot of time and effort to make sure these things are redundant and safe and keep going the right way. And so even if you don't care, just retweet, like what Alex said. If you know some of these guys, Gamma is another one who does a lot of discussion on the node side. He's talked about doing node as a service and some of these things, and that stuff matters. I realize that it's not sexy, it's not as fun, it doesn't wear a bikini, but you want to make sure that you support those guys and that those efforts really do matter in making sure that the rest of the stuff goes in a successful way.
You know who does wear a bikini and puts out great PulseChain tweets? KDP, just saying.
Right.
Just putting that out there. What else we got? Any further thoughts on that, Rags? We got a few more things to touch on before we get out of here.
No, he articulated it very well.
Cool. Let's see. What else do we have? Oh, yeah. So we say adios. Let's talk a little HEX real quick. So the BAAD, Bad Investor, wallet for AAD, fully out, dumped like 200 million eggs. He had 20 million left, I guess, yesterday. Finally dumped that. Perhaps, we can move a little more now. Even Richard mentioned has led his hands. I don't want to call him the bad investor. I'd rather call him the bad hexagon, because he made a very handsome return on his investment. The way he got out was like less than optimal, but I'd prefer like the bad hexagon as opposed to the bad investor. But these are the hurdles that we got to get by, and we're slowly doing it. And there are big accounts out there with 9-figure amounts of hex, and it's just a reality that we have to live with. But the more of these that get shaken out, you can see it. We said it for months. You can see it in the Staker app that perhaps the dollar amount going out sometimes is larger than coming in. But if you look at the wallets and transactions, that's always more than the wallets that are sending it out. So it's just a transfer of wealth to potentially many more people who will hopefully hold for much longer. But any thoughts on this before we kick it to the next?
Dude, market driven redistribution of wealth, man. This is behavior charted. This is what it's all about. This is what bear markets do. They burn the first floor, and people are coming in very, very steadily. Stakes are going up, stakers are going up, wallets are going up. It's all looking good for the bear market for Hex, and it always has. I know the price doesn't reflect it right now, but just keep the perspective there. This is what's supposed to happen, folks.
So the cool thing about guys like this is it backs up why Hex outperforms in a bear market. The people who disagree just aren't good at math, and I'll explain that in a second. The other is, this is why staking isn't price positive. It's price positive sometimes, and it's price negative other times, because it functions like a derivative. So the reason that Hex outperforms in a bear market is because that guy can sell the absolute bottom, and he made out a ton of money. And because he can do that, because he staked, because he has a very, very old entry and took yield, he can make a ton of money, and he held your price up the whole time. Part of the reason that you got to sell 56 cents is because he couldn't. So you got that big curve up, and that staking was price positive. And now that he gets to sell, one, he personally can sell the bottom and make a mint. And also he pushes the price down farther. If that guy had not been staked, he would have probably sold on the way up. You wouldn't have got your blow off top, and you wouldn't have got this entry either. It would have smoothed the curve out. So staking works like a derivative in that it's not always price positive. And this guy here gave you the mother of all entries. So that's the thing about these guys. They're not hurting the price. They're giving you a price. Hex isn't down 97% because it's got low liquidity, and because Eric is sometimes Erica, or because the world's falling. It's because this guy can sell the bottom and give you the best entry you'll probably ever get in the next handful of years. He made money and you got an entry. That's what it's supposed to do. So the staking is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. That price movement is exactly what it's supposed to do. And that's why these things aren't, you gotta measure locally. So staking did exactly what it was supposed to do for you and for him. That's why I say you can't be loving the chart. All that stuff is exactly what it's supposed to do.
How long has he been dumping? Do we know?
Not that long. He was staked for a long time. That guy has like a BPD. And if you look, he didn't even like mint his head drawn. He's just like Metamask swapping. And that's, there's another question down there too, is, so one is, you can look at that guy. That guy is not very sophisticated.
I think he did on MetaMask too, right?
Yep. So there's two things there. One is, learn that this guy would make tens of thousands, or by the time he probably sold of that, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars by listening to Cabana Crypto and spending your time here in the community and listening to people explain limit orders and market execution. So if you think that you're going to be that wealthy and you think that your T shares are going to come pay out, then listen, and you could make a ton of money. The other is to understand
and save.
Yep.
Save a ton.
The other is, for all of us that aren't our age, for all of us that don't spend all this time here, for all of us that don't have this level of sophistication, you only have to get one thing right. Buy early and wait. This guy did almost every single thing wrong, and he still is going to cash out at hundreds of X by the time, even after slippage, and even after selling the bottom, and not minting his hedron, and not doing go-to-order execution. This guy is still up 2 orders of magnitude on his money because he did the most important thing.
I mean, millions of dollars.
Yep. So you can get everything wrong and you'll still be fine if you follow that one thing. And then if you're already following that one thing, please don't do everything wrong, and you'll make more money if you listen to do all these things.
There you go.
Or, I mean, again, though, to me, that's just an entry. So if you guys want to just hit the red button, I mean, I don't really have to teach you about limit orders. I'll just make more money. That's fine. But, you know, I do. I made this joke with Mando and a few of the guys in a smaller room. I was like, I try to educate people for two reasons. One, I try to be a decent person to educate. And two, it clears my conscience when I scalp these people and make a ton of money.
That's why you're doing what you're doing, WaLLrus.
I'm just clearing my conscience, guys. That's all it is.
Gosh, man. I knew there was a catch. I knew it.
While we were on Twitter, have one more tweet. This is a short story. Good morning. Your scamfluencer is running out of CeFi sponsors from Crypto.alt. Dated June of last year. If you support anything Richard Hart is involved in, be it HEX or Pulse or whatever his newest thing is called, just unfollow me / block me. He's everything I dislike in the space, and I don't want to join any podcast to discuss my viewpoint. Kindly stop linking me every day. Thanks. It goes on. Good morning. As you guys know, Cred and I have a YouTube channel and newsletter. We ran those for fun, for free, for quite a while. Then FTX asked us if they could sponsor it. We accepted them. Then they blew up. Now we've got trust issues and don't want to work with anyone anymore. The question is, do you guys think there is a company / project / exchange, LOL, that we should work with that would actually provide value? Or is there nothing of the sort and you like it plain? Content is the same, whether we get paid or not. Just wondering what you guys think. Har, har, har. Just wondering.
They were broke. It's the worst sales pitch I've ever seen in my life. Oh, wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah, shout out to Pulse of PulseChain who threw that thread up there.
Content is content, whether we get paid or not. Yeah.
So,
trash.
Moving on. You guys use DeX Screener, the website?
Yeah.
So you probably already know, but if you don't, and for chat, they just released their app.
Yep.
And it's pretty cool in the fact that you can find pretty much all of your HEX PulseChain coins or future PulseChain coins on there. So if you are a fan of Texan, if you're a fan of Pulse Bitcoin, like literally anything I think that you're familiar with in the community, poor pleb, you can find it on that app, create a watch list, and boom, all your coins are there. You don't have to have like mobile browser tabs open or your old app. You know, a lot of apps don't have all the coins, but I like it. It's pretty cool. If you've checked it out, cool. What are your thoughts? Anybody here check it out?
I've always liked. I like the.
Or do you have a favorite app other than that?
Yeah, for DeX Screener, because it just consolidates everything that I want in a real nice way. It seems like they really thought it out. So I've seen some screenshots in our Telegram chat of the new app, and it looks awesome. So I'll have to check it out this evening.
Yeah, the user experience is everything. Another one of those things I've probably said a dozen times. I'm going to say it until we get good enough. I get to keep or quit saying it. Is so my girl will go to Starbucks and use their app. She pays with a QR code. There's points in dollars, so there's multiple currencies, and she does this so she'll get a discount on a coffee cup. So people are willing to do the same stuff that you would have to do to be in crypto, but they won't do it for us, but they'll do it for a discount on a coffee cup. That means our stuff sucks. None of this stuff is good enough yet. The user experience is awful. Crypto is beautiful and all those things, but we got to throw cold water on ourselves and look at what it is, right? Market disrupting stuff doesn't disrupt because it's better. It disrupts because it's so much better and the user experience is so much better that people almost don't have a choice. They just go to it in droves. So just because our stuff is censorship resistant, which is important, and just because it gives you self-sovereignty, which is important, no one cares. Those people who do are already here. You have to give the rest of these people something to do. And it's not an airdrop and it's not free stuff. It's you have to make this user experience so seamless and so much better that everyone will just come here naturally. Like you have to just absolutely lower these barriers to entry. So UI is always important.
Yeah. And Mudhog, Fatty looks cool as well. Yes, I'm a big fan of Fatty and can't wait to see that go live, as well as Fiat and Famous, all with the PHs. So shout out the Buck.
Those are
and
smart guys. For people
Yeah.
who they'll know it too. I tell them the same time, like they know they're abrasive and a little different, and a little more finance, bro, than we're used to. But those are smart guys.
I like it because that's kind of how I came up as traditional finance. So it's cool to have that speak, and it's cool that
Yep.
that those minds are in crypto and they see the value in it,
Mhm.
especially on the exchange side. Yes, Fatty is your girl, Mudhog. Yeah. All right.
Mudhog and his girl Fatty. That sounds like a comic book. I'd probably read that.
We were talking about other coins. Let's do this real quick. Timely question, because it was next on the list there, Acid Thunder. I hope you're doing okay and enjoying yourself this evening. Any thoughts on the communist coin as coined by Big K last week? Was it communists? Been all the rage because it was a free mint for HEX stakers, encouraging staking community. Have you played with your communist coin? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought being the primary driver of freedom and sovereignty as a separatist, I should reach out to my communist brothers, and I actually made them a logo, and I said, "Hey guys, welcome. Good luck with your project." Came up with a couple little prototypes, and I actually made them a logo and said good luck. I minted what I needed to mint from there, and I admittedly I don't know as much about it as I should, but pretty good guys in there. Who is it? Kodiak, I think that's the name.
Yep.
Yeah, he's been real kind to me and answered questions really well. So.
Yeah, and there is a great chat. I think it's still in their Telegram room. Benny Blanco has it linked. Well, that's the app, but yeah, t.me communist crypto, but communist crypto. But there's a great chat with Kodiak and Patrick Hexlion, and of course Patrick is very thorough in his vetting / questioning process, and they talk for I think over an hour.
I like Patrick. I've got the chance to meet him and hang out with him a few times.
Yeah,
really good guy. I like him.
Cool dude. Love them both, and they're supposed to be on next week as our guests here on the show. Not sure what day yet due to some traveling, but we'll hit that at the end of the show here. But yeah, learn about communists in the Telegram room, and again, their hour-long plus chat with Hexlion and Kodiak is in there, and pretty much if you have a question, Patrick asked it. So communists up 17.36% today. A ton of zeros and a ton of coins, but I would, not financial advice, but I'm of the opinion that if you get the stuff for free, maybe hold on to it. Just forget you have it. Put it in a wallet that you can access in like a year or two from now, and maybe you'll wake up to a nice surprise.
Yeah, that is cool. Only Benny makes the point, only native stakes can actually mint it. So it's based on how many T-shares you have.
Yes.
That's pretty neat too. And I think if I'm not mistaken, reading the white paper, you get rewarded after the stakes if you remint or if you restake the stuff that you minted, or you restake your HEX stakes. I believe you get extra mints as well. So kind of it incentivizes positive behavior on the HEX side. So that's pretty cool.
Yes. And Kodiak emphasizes that in his chats and his comments in that room. So good stuff there. Good stuff. What else do we have? We've run through most of this. GBTC Premium. Just quick thoughts on this. It's pretty much crashed lately. We were up to like 50%. We were in the 30s last I saw. Let's
take a look. I'm gonna look.
Yeah. Is the low end for Bitcoin? I'm not saying we can't go back down to 16,000, but do we see? I'll ask you, WaLLrus, first. Do we see 11K because we, need to pray, or any thoughts on that side of things?
So I did a space on it recently, and that's part of the reason all this stuff is so fresh on DCG and Grayscale and those things. There is a lot of players that are around it, and this is Man, I can never answer anything straight. I was going to stand on a soapbox and go all about.
Come on.
So part of these things are, there's one of the advantages to decentralization is also that there's not giant pots of money. So why do bridges get hacked? Because that's where all the money is. Why do centralized exchanges keep being the ones that blow up and have fraud and have money stolen? Because that's where all the money is. So if you just take things and decentralize them where there's not giant pots of money, people won't come break your stuff, right? So one of the issues with the Grayscale Trust, besides some stuff we touched on earlier, is there's a big pile of money there. So you have all these players who want to come manipulate that pile of money because of how it affects other things. So if you have a short on BTC, wouldn't it be awesome if somebody broke the trust and got it liquidated? So if you have a short on these other positions, or if you're trying to take over competition, or that a hedge fund, there's all these other things that go around these things, and this is why some of the stuff should be separated. But because it's a big pile of money, people are going to come try and attack it because there's all these extra avenues, right? So some of those players that went through there and wrecked Terra Luna, they did it because they had a giant short position on it, and because they used a different lending mechanic on BTC, and they made a mint all the way across. So one of the issues with Grayscale, again, is it just has a attack surface because it's got a lot of Bitcoin. So if you look at Firtree, Firtree, they actually have a lawsuit where they're trying to hold up and try to minimize some of these assets and how that liquidation process would go, and if they can actually go through Reg M. The other is they also have a almost year-long short now in USDT. And one of the things about having a short on a stable is that if you're one of these players who can actually move some markets, you have a really, really interesting risk profile in that you have very little risk to the upside, but a almost infinite push if you're leveraged. So no one should do this, but as an example, if you look at USDT, what's the highest it's ever been? Because of redemption, all these things that stay stable. So it's probably never been above 104. Maybe there's a spike somewhere. So you can be extremely leveraged. And then outside of the most extreme examples, it's never been out more than 4%. So you could be 15x leverage, and it's never going to liquidate that position, essentially. Do not do this, by the way. But if you break it and it depegs and this thing goes down to zero, you make a mint. So these people can hold huge, very heavy short leverage positions against stables because of everything else, and the rest of these market forces will keep that thing down. So that stuff's really hard. So Firtree and some of these people that have big funds are going to go through and try to attack the Grayscale Trust or any of these places where there's large amounts of money because they have outsized reasons to do so. So there's a lot of players around the Grayscale Trust that have almost nothing to do with Bitcoin or the trust itself or DCG, which there's enough mess there, but they're doing that because there's big ways to use other instruments to make money on collapsing that thing.
Yeah, and to answer your question too, Cabana, I think that we just need to be very, very careful right now. Everybody is expecting some sort of sign from God that everything's going to turn around. And I'm just here to tell you, there's a lot of stuff that's floating out there that can get people very wrecked. And, Walrus, you talked about one. Here's another one. Binance holds 20% of the supply of USDT, and USDT is a competitor to BUSD. If, CZ wanted to play hardball, kind of in a way that he did with FTX, he wouldn't have to sell 20% to cause a run on the banks. He'd have to sell a small portion of that. So that's kind of floating out there. A lot of people are looking at that. The other thing is, folks, the interest rates that were increased by the Federal Reserve, we're not going to see the full effects of those for example, December until about March. So there's about a 3-month lag with these things. And even if we get to that point, you got to understand that the Fed isn't going to immediately cut interest rates either. They're going to find the level that they want to stop at. They're going to chill there for a while.
Agreed.
Because they're completely reactionary right now. They're like praying to God that they can get this thing under control. And I'll tell you this too. What do you think happens to inflation when we have these little spikes in the market? Everybody gets excited and they start spending money again, and it actually causes worse problems. So when the Fed saw this spike, they probably hated it because they may have to ratchet down maybe more than 25 basis points. I was hoping it would go down to 25 in February, but it's probably going to stay at 50 after this little spike, in my opinion.
Plus,
and that's based off history. Yeah.
Plus the reopening of China. Yeah. Yeah.
China.
So that might be a factor as well. I just wanted to pull up these two charts really quick. So we have the Bitcoin charts here. So we're at what, 19.9? So we're right up near
like a 12% rally or something like that.
Yeah. But the thing is here, so like look towards the end of last year and down, and I know a lot of crypto bros, and I often say this is don't like stock talk. Well, this chart looks awfully similar to the Qs, which is the NASDAQ. Peaked around the exact same time, and it's just following it down. So there is some correlation here, and of course NASDAQ is tech heavy, so we are right at the 200-week moving average. Coincidentally, we pretty much just ended right there, and the downtrend in the Qs is about 290. That's about the same distance I think we are from the Bitcoin chart. I don't want to keep flipping charts back, but that resistance level, it's falling. It's about a little over 22,000. So there's still room to run, but until we break those levels, like 20 couple thousand in Bitcoin, like it's another bear market rally. And for those who've been around long enough, these are the like rip your face off rallies. You think this is the end, and it rockets right back to the resistance level. And
Be
those
careful.
those resistance levels have been tagged multiple times since the beginning of last year.
With the next 30 to 40, I think with the next 45 days, I think we are going to see a strong fall off by a lot of the indicators that I'm looking at.
So you think we go lower, and the low is not in?
No, I think the NASDAQ's going to go. I think it could drop another 40% from where it is today. I really do, based on similar things that have happened in the past.
I'd be fine with that because there's a lot I want to buy.
Yeah.
It's again particular, especially with some of this V3 and everyone's getting like dialed back up again for launch. It's been since May. Everybody forgot everything they knew about launch.
Yep.
I brought this up for a long time, and we don't want to get in the weeds on the math, but if you look at the value of copies, if you're trying to get Pulse and PulseX and you're trying to sort of do anything around launch, you are you're gonna, that value, the equation on it's much more important about the principle. So even if you think you're going to lose value on the other side, if your idea is you're buying some of these things because you want to trade them early and move them around, you're much better off just holding stables or whatever it is you're willing to hold through the value, because protecting the principal on that value is much more important than the copy value. So again, one of those things, be careful about what you're doing. HEX is one of those examples. This is one of the places where all the things we love about HEX make it kind of a bad play for this. I don't think people should try to trade HEX in that early window there. That is a great way to get wrecked. So if you are trying to load up for that early phase and you're trying to get dry powder in, if you think that, the pump's never going to come down, again, everyone can have their own thesis there. I would make sure that in your head, you're not thinking, well, I've got a double. Like, it matters for certain things, but if that's what your strategy is, you don't have a double. You have principal that can get wrecked, and then you have doubles that aren't going to carry the value on the side that you lost on principal. So especially when there's these down markets, when there's plenty of more black swans to come do their thing, just be extra careful with your principal. Or if you are going to hold anything that's risk on, assume that there's a break coming and that you're willing to hold that thing through that. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. So just always, again, don't catch falling knives. Make sure you have a mental process ready for when the thing goes the other way.
Good advice.
Yep. Not financial advice, but good
financial
advice.
Opinion.
Great opinion. I really like that opinion.
Other people's advice. That's all.
Right.
Yeah, that was a super opinion. All right. So I've been collecting questions throughout the show. We have a few
nice.
Here we can get through before we start to wrap it up with a few fun things, some price speculation for later this year. But before we do that, let's bring up some of these questions.
We don't have anyone positive left. After talking about grayscale and CBDCs, people having a good day, they left. It's Friday. They didn't need this. Hopefully we get something bright and happy, right?
Yeah. Well, since we're talking about HEX price right now, let's do this one first. Chad asks, do you think HEX will go back down and retest 1.7 pennies or go lower? So I would guess, just because of what Rags just said, he thinks it could go lower, but that's the area that I've been eyeing as like a technical potential bottom, because that was the ceiling there, like I don't know, I forget what year it was now. It's been, a while, but I think it was 2021. That was kind of like the resistance level for a while, and then we busted out of that, and then we finally came back down. We're like grinding on it a little bit. I think Jenkins is another guy who cited this level. A very dark Rags Rich is there. Do you think we go back down and retest or go lower? I'll start with you, Rags.
Yeah, let me share this. It's at the bottom of your screen there, just so I can provide some context. So this is kind of what we've been looking at the entire time. In my mind, I really pay attention to the macro. If PulseChain does not launch, this could certainly put us around a penny, probably by May. So, and that's with the economy continuing to have higher interest rates and interest rates not being cut, and the January interest rates catching up. So I think that a penny we could wick down to those levels for sure. I really believe that. I don't see anything else that would change that unless PulseChain launches, or unless we have solid V3 information, and we're going to be going soon.
While we're saying take on price, I know it's fun speculation, but
yeah, I'm always really careful about like forward-looking price statements on that. Again, I would just kind of go back to that same thing, like look at the macro level. Don't get too fixated on that first chart. And the answer for any will it go down this far question is always the same two words: limit orders.
Yep.
I mean, it's the answer for everything. Just take whatever you think, put some of your bag there, take whatever you think and put some of it lower and lower and lower. And so you're like, I actually do not think this could get there, and scale those things out, and you just make adjustments.
I call those fun bids or silly bids, because if you hang on long enough and you stick around, some of those could eventually hit. And if you got to leave them there, and if you monitor the markets and you watch levels fail, and you don't ape, when you're, you think things might be turning around, like right now, it's like, okay, we're coming up on a resistance level, and if we break, then man, I'm gonna see some mad gains. But if we don't, what happens if we go way back down and test former levels that we were at? Then you're out of all that cash that you could have invested and got more coins with. So where's this HEX chart I wanted to bring up? So I'll just throw my comment on here, since Rags did his with his nice little chart. Just looking pure price chart. This is all I'm doing. And this is what I was speaking on earlier. So this is the daily. We're challenging. We actually blew past the 40, which is good. But this goes all the way back. And this is the level I was talking about. So the top was here early January 2021. And we ran right up to like 1.7, 1.8. And then we busted that a little later in April of 2021, and it kind of served as support for the first time. Had our rise all the way up to 50, and then we come down. And where did we touch? That initial top, and where we ground around there. So potentially, could we go down to this level, a penny and a half? That would be my next level, because look how many times that got tapped as resistance all through here. Then that flipped to support. So could we go to a penny and a half? And Rags could be correct. Absolutely. And
I hope I'm not. There's a caveat. I hope I'm not.
I hope I'm not.
But I got to be the mayor of Realville here. We'll see what happens.
We're
in a rough situation right now.
Yeah. And pumps are great.
Yes.
We're just trying to keep everybody, with some perspective here. Like, by no means have we, flipped Bitcoin resistance or NASDAQ resistance or anything like that. If we do, awesome. And we could be off to the races. But right now, these are bear market rallies. And until resistances are broken, That's what they're going to be. So careful, as WaLLrus said, limit orders, don't get wrecked, and just take it day by day. We'll get through it. Just don't ape FOMO, and only do with what you can sleep with at night.
The other
Something
one I like
like
to
that.
make the joke on, like you see that that Twitter engagement post, like if you have $1,000, what should I invest it in? If you have $1,000, you should go get a job. And I mean that is like when I'm teasing that guy, but what I mean is if you one of the best things you can do in these markets is just go generate capital. So whatever it is you're doing to make funds outside of crypto, lean the hell into it. You're much more likely to end up better off by just generating more funds and accumulating than you are trying to catch some pump or thinking that you're going to play those games there or living off your, whatever it is. Again, everyone's situation is different, but as soon as you start to see these heavy trends where stuff starts to fall down, the best thing you can do is just go make capital. Like money is powerful. Dollars are powerful in the bear market.
Especially in a bear, like you get the chance to multiply your money, right? Like potentially right now, like put
this
it
is
in
the
the
bear
market.
Of all bears too.
And
This is
it's a prolonged one.
You might not get this opportunity for a couple decades, guys. That's what we're talking about. A
That
couple
sounds
20
silly,
years.
but
Yeah.
you look at a price chart 10 years from now,
Right.
it might not be so silly.
Right.
Meltoni, high of the day. That's awesome. Wanted to pull up T-Bird's comment because I do agree with this in part. So, my man T-Bird, limit orders are overhyped and don't always fill. DCA with market orders is better, in my opinion. I see both sides of that. So, yeah, if you want, kind of like set it and forget it, for days or a week or what have you, however long you can set those limits for. Cool. That's like out of sight, out of mind. But I do understand your point because with limit orders, especially on like a matcha, that price has to go through a ways your limit order price in order to be filled, depending upon how many coins you're going for. So I understand
it also depends on how much funds you're doing as well, because it also protects against slippage and sandwich attacks. So it's not just about trying to catch a price, but order execution itself. And the larger the order is, the more likely it is to get filled to offset the gas cost that you're not paying because the other side's paying it. So you can get too aggressive, but again, it depends on what the actual goal is. If you're throwing in $200 on a check every kind of Friday, again, I think that people should learn to do a limit order in the first place, just because if you're not willing to use good order execution, you're probably gonna have problems down the road. But if you're someone like T-Bird, who probably easily understands what he's doing, he just doesn't like him. He's obviously, used them and had problems. And if you prefer to go that route, that's fine. Just you're going to catch some of these other issues. And again, the larger that amount starts to become, the more important the limit order is. Or if you're someone who actually is very involved in the space and you can actually set some of these levels and you're trying to catch, big wicks and things like that from other whales, there's advantages there. So they're both good tools, but I agree with everything except for the overhype part. But I know what he's getting at for sure. And that's a fair retort. It's probably good to bring it up.
Yep. And fees is a big reason why people do it too. So if you don't want to, it depends what Ethereum gas is. And if it's like $40 a transaction or something crazy, then you might be, depending upon the amount that you have in your war chest, you might, just be pushed to do a limit order anyway. So. Next question. We have a couple left here before we finish up. Michael Late, what kind of buy pressure do you see when PulseChain launches and the bridge is in? Have people saved up for this? Thoughts? I'll throw it out there. Rags?
For those of us who've done research on these types of layer ones, I think we understand what's possible. If we understand what's possible, then there's probably other people out there paying folks to research to find out what's possible. And I think that PulseChain is on many people's radar who have good money. I really do believe that. Now, not only that, the big talking point here is like, okay, what's the difference between PulseChain and Ethereum POW or Ethereum Fair, whatever the case may be? The big difference is it's launching with its full infrastructure, and it's going to be properly capitalized, most likely, based on donation sacrifices, things like that. So I think that we will see exactly what we expect, personally, because I think there's a lot of people that want to get their hands on a layer one this early, especially a layer one ETH 2.0 fork with system state copy. So that's my opinion.
So I always like to kind of this caveat, depends on what you're doing. If you're asking about holding, then the answer is to assume that you see the mother of all red wicks and that your bag is wrecked. Just get it in your head now. That way you don't bail out and have problems around launch, because you are going to get there at some, it doesn't mean that it'll retrace or go below sacrifice, but sometime in that first, whatever little window, you are going to get one huge red candle because someone's going to want out. The liquidity will be thin, and someone's going to sit there and stare at a 4X and think they're going to get a better entry, and they're going to wreck the liquidity pool. So if you're talking about holding and sort of like mental preparation, assume it's the mother of all wicks and that you're wrecked. You'll just be better off then. If you're talking about DCAing in, that's where I think that I agree with Rags. One, people see the potential. Typically, there's this time frame for education, but so many people have had 2 years to learn. We've got content creators, and there's projects, and there's education, and there's infrastructure. There's all these things already built. So it's not going to have the same level of like, wait, what's ETHW? But the first time anyone heard about ETHW or ETHFair, they were already out, and they were wrecked, and they weren't connected, and they tried to do things, and it was buggy, and the bridges didn't work, and the exchanges weren't there, and everything was trash, right? That won't be the case when we launch. The other is that some of the reason that you get that traditional S curve on these things is because people got in at levels that not everyone else did. So if you start with VC money or some of these players who don't have vesting schedules or golden handcuffs, they're going to move in at a really aggressive level, and they're just going to take their funds. Or the same thing if you have a lot of free coins. That didn't really happen here. So even though there's a large distribution of Pulse for everyone's ETH, the entire ETH airdrop is the equivalent of like 12 grand, right? So you don't, even though there's a lot by like a supply number or a lot of distribution, there's not free coins out there. Now you'll have some more in the liquidity pools, but you want that for a good reason. So everything dips, everything retraces. And if people just assume there's a dip, that it starts to dip just because they thought there was a dip. But again, I don't think that you're going to get this massive retrace where it dips below sacrifice and the FUD's all true and Eric gets to have his Twitter storm.
That was my next question. Do we go below sac price?
Right. I don't see that coming, but I'm ready for it if it does. And if it does, that's fine. I'll just buy or not buy and ride it out. But if I was like looking at DCAing in, I would probably think, hey, these early opportunities might be the best one. And I would probably be not aggressive, but more aggressive than I would have been, assuming that I was going to get that big S curve, because I don't see that same type of retracement. But again, so I would add it to the probability, not just make all your movements assuming it doesn't.
Thoughts, Rags? Before we go on?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. He built on that. That's very good.
All right. Last one from Sergio Vasquez. Would like WaLLrus to explain what fixer bot behavior could look like in the PLSX AMM liquidity pairs. Thanks in advance.
Sergio, man, I really appreciate this. One, I spend so much time learning things like a fixer bot, PulseX AMM liquidity pair pool that I promise you that doesn't get asked a lot at the bar. So I really appreciate when someone asks, because I spend the time to go learn all this stuff. So the fixer bot is hard because there's like 4 layers of abstraction. It's actually way simpler than people think. All the fixer bot is somebody with a big wad of cash and they just buying. So because of the supply difference, the way it gets copied over, the price is wrong because it's trying to essentially price all these other pairs like there's the same amount of pulse as there is ETH. There's a lot more pulse for the supply. So all the fixer bot does is goes and buys those pools up until that pricing corrects. And then all with what it buys is going to buy the ERC or what'll be a PRC, right? So there's ETH and there's HEX, right? Okay, so that price is wrong. It comes and buys up all the HEX until that price is correct now. And then it takes that HEX and then it puts it in PulseX at that same ratio. So now all the prices are correct. So all the fixer bot is doing is buying up all these other pools until they're price correct, and then taking that same price and putting all the liquidity in PulseX. That's all it is. There's a lot of tricky stuff and interesting things, but that's all it is. The fixer bot is just somebody with big bags who's buying it up till it's correct and then putting all the liquidity back in PulseX.
And there you have it. Thank you, Walrus, for that explanation.
Thanks, Sergio.
Thank you, Sergio. Very technical question that I'm going to take from Ash. Cabana, who wins Monday, Tampa or Dallas? All right. So here's the thing. You asked me this 3 weeks ago. I'd say the Dallas Cowboys would stomp the Bucks into the mud. Now the tides have turned and the Bucks chart is going up and to the right and the Dallas Cowboys chart is going down and to the right. I am still going to go Dallas just because I think they have more talent and a slightly better defense. But I mean, if Mike Evans is coming to life and Brady's back and maybe he's feeling better because the crypto market's rallying and he feels better about getting wrecked on FTX and he has a chance, maybe that's what's pumping him up here. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'm going to take the Cowboys. Anybody a football fan and have a pick on this game?
I'm a Dallas guy. But I'm going to say
I like them both. Both of them, two of my favorite teams.
I hate to bet against Brady in the playoff, or that's this time of year. I hate to bet against him, man, because I've seen him just do crazy stuff, and he's got the eye of a tiger, man. I don't know, dude. I think he's going to beat Dallas. I hate to say it. I hate it because I'm a Dallas fan. Hate to say it.
They have weapons. Their defense is pretty good.
They do. It's damn Brady though, man.
And I think I saw some crazy stat where the Cowboys, like, of their losses, like this year, 5 of them have been on grass.
Yeah.
Like, oh, great. So,
yeah.
I'm actually very, very obsessive about sports betting and fantasy football. So to the point where I'm like, man, I think that Russell Gage, the number 4 receiver for Tampa Bay, might have a good matchup considering Anthony Brown and the third string guys are out for the Cowboys. So where I think that's one of those things where that type of issue on defense doesn't get exposed by some of the younger guys that are basically just going to run the offense. But someone like Brady, this happens in a lot of things where people will like know there's like a pressure point or something's exposed, but they'll just do it once. Brady will just stare at you and do it over and over and over again until you fix it. And if you don't fix it, then Brady will do the same thing.
Right.
So that's why, like, sometimes you'll just see a matchup and there's a guy you've never heard of who goes off for like 8 and 176 or something with Brady. It's because he just got a matchup he liked and the other side just doesn't fix it. So the Cowboys have like a big advantage on like perimeter pressure, and Micah Parsons is a manimal. I'm worried about him. They should figure out his DNA. They just need to test him, not for testosterone, but just to make sure he's like 100% human. Yeah, I don't know what that guy is. But they have like crazy pressure off the edge with him and D-Law. So the big issue will just be if they can be creative enough on the coverage to make sure that Brady just doesn't destroy them with Julio Jones having a revival game, Godwin off the slot. Russell Gage is like an underrated player because Russell Gage isn't great, but he ain't playing against Trayvon Diggs. He's playing against your 3rd and 4th string corner. So they got to be careful about being thin at the position that Brady will expose. So there's some upside to them, but I'm from Texas, so I hope the Cowboys win. They're a team.
So you're betting on them?
No.
Oh, okay.
And I had an emotional hedge this season. Luckily, it played out. I actually bet the Eagles to win the division.
Nice.
And I figured that I would either be happy or I'd be paid. So there was a good hedge there. So
are you in Big K's fantasy leagues?
I am not, but now that I know he's got one, I'll definitely go in there because not only is K a cool guy, but that's the exact kind of person you want to have in your fantasy league.
Yeah.
Because if you win, whatever he's going to call you is going to be awesome. And if you win, there's no one more to make fun of than a guy like Big K. Like, that guy's a character, man. So like, yeah, I should definitely get in with him.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know because a lot of people are locked in for years. So maybe a spot will open up next year. He's got 2 of them. I would just like to say
maybe we can bribe him with Pulse and PulseX when it drops. Maybe we'll get a bidding war going with a smart contract.
Oh, a Pulse league. There we go.
Auction it up. We'll get the Pulse pot guys to set us up a table so we can auction off the slots.
I'll get in that one as well. Just like to say, shout out to Big K, 2-time champion.
Oh,
champ.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
shout out to Gardner Minshew, who won me 2 fantasy championships as my Jalen Hurts almost wrecked me in the playoffs. But Minshew mania, baby. Minshew mania.
I like that guy, man. He's a lot of fun to watch.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, just some fun stuff left. Couple fun questions, but I know Walrus doesn't like, price chat. So I'll start with Rags.
Yeah.
But how
I hate
many?
fun.
I see this all the time in the chat, and we love to throw it out just to end on a fun, positive moon note. But now that all this talk of V3 is going on, how many X could we see from? We'll start with PulseChain. In 2023, provided we get it's live for at least 3 months.
So how many X's would PulseChain get in a 12-month period, provided it's live?
Well, you can go
sometime
12
soon?
months. Yeah, once
Okay.
after launch. I was just saying
so it's
2023.
January 1 of 2024. By that time,
There we
is that
go.
what we're saying?
And provided we've been out for at least 3-4 months, hopefully.
Man, that's actually a difficult question right now. I'm going to
It's
err on
fun.
this.
That's all.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I'm going to. I would say that by the 1st of January 2024, with the market conditions that we have right now, but also thinking that they will loosen economic policy Q3 of next year, I think that we could see a 50x. I think that we could see a 25 to 50. I'm just going to say it. Let's say a 30x. That's what I'm going to say.
We got some moon in the chat.
No, he's a good guy. So I don't really have like the price, but I can give like some like FOMO from my side. One, we talk about there being 40,000 wallets. There's not. Me and a handful of small people are probably representative of like 1,000 of those, because there's always talk about drops to Genesis addresses. So if they don't go there and script them out, if you clip it at like $50 or something, I'm not exaggerating, thousands of wallets fall off. And then if you look at the next tier of like $1,000, it clips off over half are already gone. Like almost literally it drops that far. And so the wallet like the number of people who got in is not the number we quote. It's substantially less than that.
Mm-hmm.
The other is that at the top, Rack. Anyone think Rack selling in the first 10 months? Godwell? So you look at that top tier where I think that the distribution is a lot smaller than people think. And I think that a lot of the money at the top, who not only put in the money, but also have the biggest multiplier, those guys ain't going anywhere. So if the fish in the middle want to take early returns, whatever you think it's going to do, I think that if you look at the map, there's a lot of reasons on there that would give you some pretty bullish terms. If you were sort of comparing money in, money out, who the players are, how many wallets there are, the raw math does not do it justice.
That's exciting. See, we're bringing some positivity back at the end.
Yay.
All right. Now I'm back in.
I guess similar thoughts for PulseX before we move on to our last one.
PulseX is going to. I'm not going to give
which will outperform Pulse or PulseX
in the long term. I think Pulse does.
1 year.
Personally. Okay, well, I think PulseX has a shot if the market's pumping. You look at the decentralized exchanges going into DeFi summer, this and that, man, those things ripped. All of them ripped. They did 150 to 500x in 3 to 6 months, some of those. So I think plus the tokenomics, the pumpamentals are a little bit stronger with PulseX. I think PulseX could beat out PulseChain initially. I'm not gonna talk about how much, because it just gets kind of weird.
I respect that.
Yeah,
I totally do, because some of the HEX charts that I saw like a couple of years ago were weird as well.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on PulseX versus Pulse Walrus? You have a favorite to outperform the other? So
just two quick ones. One, if you're heavy into PulseX and all those things, then you need to spin around and 3K, 4Ks, because that guy's done more to pump your bags than any human being alive. He might like PulseX more than Richard.
K for K? Yeah.
So one is, and this I actually think is really valuable, not just for price, but just for people in general. Way early on, for a long time, like I did a few early videos on it, and like have talked about this from the beginning, but K4K has just absolutely just been the caboose, held the banner, flown the flag, whatever expression you want to use. Too many people were thinking that PulseX was just a way into Pulse. And that sentiment has died very, very quickly. And a lot of that has to do with not just the moon math and crazy stuff that he and a few guys might touch on in general, but K4K has educated people about why it's just not that. So he's done a lot of extra work there. A lot of other people have as well. So less people are going to be, hey, this is just my ticket into Pulse and what would have originally happened. The other is that even the idea that we're comparing the DEX to the Layer 1 coin is enough to tell you that you're bullish. Like if you have to have the conversation, you're great. Everything's great. You know what I mean? If you didn't know the tokenomics, you didn't know anything, and you could go back in your head without even looking, and you said, do you want BNB or a cake? You just say BNB, just reflex. If you go back in time without even looking at the chart or anything, you said you could have ETH or you could have Uni. What would you want? ETH, no question. Avalanche, the same thing goes for all these. So the fact that there's even that conversation tells you how strong the project, the community, and the tokenomics are. Like the conversation's enough to tell you it's going that way.
Keep bringing up the BTC chart. Now we're at 20,400.
Hey,
just
fun.
Screaming. So that resistance up there is about 20-some thousand. So
that's fun.
This is the daily 22,000. Yeah, ish. That's the daily, but that's like the next big resistance line. Obviously, it comes down day by day. But yeah, man, it's not relenting, which is kind of cool. Just feels good to get a good pump. Look at all those green candles. It's nice. Yeah. I mean, RSI is just way overblown now, but
Bitcoin bros are going to be coming out of the woodshed here, guys. Yep. Get ready.
Oh, I've already seen like the 20K tweets. I'm like, bro, we did that like years and years ago, and they're excited that we busted it.
They're so happy to get their 5x in the next 4 years. So stoked.
I heard there was a guy who called that top.
Who?
Yeah, on the day even.
I've heard about him too. Yeah. I've not seen him though.
Yeah, there's another tweet. 20,000 United States dollars for one Bitcoin in all caps. It's just like, oh, look, see. It would not surprise me just because weekend trading, weirder things happen in crypto on the weekends. It would not surprise me if we go up and we hit 20 couple thousand and we just get slammed back down. By
Look at the RSI, dude.
Early next week. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just insane right now. But weird things happen on the weekends, guys. So be careful if you get like a crazy, crazy pump that's just even crazier than this. My opinion, I would maybe look to take some of the Bitcoin off and harvest it, and maybe look to get back in later. And until that, downtrend is broken. But maybe that's just me. All right, we saved the fun one for last because we get a copy of this on the PulseChain. I'll start with you, Rags. What is the high for HEX? We asked this last week with K4K and Big K and Cabana Crypto with K's. That was our K show. High for HEX 2023. I'm trying to remember what I said, but go ahead.
High for HEX 2023. I think that HEX can move much faster than most people think.
Pick a chain too.
So, pick a chain. All right. I think that our high in HEX is actually going to be, I think it would be on Ethereum.
Ooh.
If it launches anytime within the next 6 months here. And I think that we could probably see, I think we could get back up to 40 or 50 cents pretty quick, quite honestly. I've got no doubt in my mind.
Man.
Yeah.
All right.
I think so.
That's way more bullish
in
than
weeks.
I am.
In weeks. Yeah. In weeks.
I feel when they move. And I mean, if you miss, say, a week or two in crypto, like that could be the year's worth of gains right there.
Yep.
So I see what you're saying. Walrus, final thoughts on HEX and what could you see possibly being a high for 2023?
So I think that a few of the bullish things are now when you're first making an all-time high and going to 56 cents, no one believes it all the way up, and it's always the top and it's always the top. But now everybody's seen it, right? So now when you look at it and they're like 40 cents and someone says, oh, it's going to go to 45, you go, maybe. You've seen it before, right? It's real now. Every area that breaks that way, right? So one, it's real. So like now if you're looking at DCAing or just any of these projections, 56 is the old high, right? So like it's a realistic thing all the way to there. So that, again, that kind of takes some of those levels when it comes to the pump. You can see those kinds of things move. The other is, again, that staking behavior. So more and more people have staked longer. HSIs are this will be the first time the HSI effect really hits in a positive way.
Good point.
And then we just cashed out a lot of big players. And the longer we go away from big payday, the less stakes come out with big payday. So you get to have this spot where the people who were in early start to have less effect. These people sell out, all these things. And so I wouldn't see anything about behaviors that would make you think that we're not going to have more bullish uptrend or that these things won't be. I mean, you have staking behavior that's more price positive. You have more of the early players that are out. Once early players get paid, they also don't have to sell the same amount, right? So you see this with all big wallets. They don't sell as often in general because they don't have to as far as percentage of their bag, right? You make your first $1 million, you go through it like an NBA draft pick, right? Got to buy the car, the house, got to take care of mama, all these things, right? Maybe you act like you're Scarface in Miami a couple of weekends and like, here you are. And then you get it again and you're like, well, I've already got the house. I've already got the cars. I had the weekends in Miami. So do you still go buy some crazy stuff? Maybe you buy the purse or the watch, all this stuff, of course, but you just tend to spend less and less as you go because you have a lot of this baseline. So players that are here in price positive are paid. Players who are here in price negative have sold, and the staking behavior has gotten longer and longer. So again, I think if you look across the board at the ecosystem, there's more things that are price positive, more ways for people to sell things that aren't just affected by HEX. So I don't see why you think why it wouldn't be more of a parabola on the way up this time.
I enjoyed that take. One more question that came at the very end from El Deuce. When the PLS hard fork occurs, will the OA's USDC/Dlive be worth 0 because it's not supported on PulseChain? I would certainly say USDC more so than the Dlive, but likely. But any thoughts on that?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
So they're worth whatever the liquidity pool says they're worth.
Right.
So what are they worth in dollars when it opens? Nothing. The same as everything else. It'll be interesting to see actually how that behavior goes. In general, those wallets tend to be pretty benevolent and price positive in most ways. So do they use those funds that are likely to be worth 0 in the future to take things off market? Do they do less and allow everyone else to try to take advantage of arbitrage and dump their bags out early? I don't really know. They won't be worth 0. They'll be worth whatever the liquidity pools say they are. Where those wallets might get cute is those wallets have had a lot of time to think through this. And so most of us are pretty comfortable with using, Uniswap V2, maybe V3 and PulseX. Maybe those wallets go through and attack Curve and Balancer and Reflexer and all these other more intricate models where there won't be front ends open, but they go after those to take care of those ARB events, one, to take those things off market, but also to leave meat on the bone for other players. So they could do a lot. And especially in that first window, that's, again, it's not worth dollars, but it's a lot of dry powder to buy tokens. And I'm sure whatever it ends up doing will be price positive.
And there you have it.
There you go. I said like 3 positive price things in a row. I'm really happy.
There you go. And let's do one more for Bitcoin.
And not one number. That's my big thing. I don't give a number. I just said positive stuff. Everyone can
there
be
you
happy.
go. I like it. I like the strategy. It's a sound way of doing things. So this one just made me laugh from Ash. OMG, someone just created a Twitter space that's titled $100,000 Bitcoin by next week, and Anthony Scaramucci is in it. LMFAO.
Oh gosh, the crazy returns.
So with positive price action, we have to go through this again. And this tells me that
the king is back.
There's more pain ahead, possibly as soon as next week, because this needs to stop again. Like this needs to not happen for a while.
I'm gonna go check on Max Kaiser. I don't want him to have a heart attack.
Yeah, I'm shorting at the next resistance level for sure.
22,000. You heard it here. Rags is shorting. So
Come on, boys! Bitcoin's going to the moon. Let's go!
Yeah, no, let's go.
and like high-fiving and hugging sailors, and yeah, it's just like, oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, this was a fun show. Thanks guys for
Yeah.
coming by. It was a great conversation. I could tell chat loved it as well. Great questions from chat. Let's put a bow on it and we'll shill ourselves before we go. Brandon-Texan.cc. Where can we find you, sir?
Yeah, at Rags Riches Fam. You go to Texan.cc, check our stuff out. Two little cool events. We had a $500 billion stake sent out 22 years, and that decreased circulating supply by 20% today. And then now that it's out too, our number one wallet is actually the God Whale. So come check us out, Texan.cc. If you guys have any questions, hop in chat. And I want to say this too. Our project is not for Hexicans. Our project is for the 435,000 people of the Texas nationalist movement who are trying to onboard into crypto. And I want to tell you this too. If you want to make money and you want less risk, you would go to HEX to do that. Just want to say that right now, because our project is not proven, has not been on the market long. And if you're new and you want that sure thing, you would go there. So I want to let people in chat know that. And Cabana, dude, this has been one of my favorite streams I've ever been on. I don't have many of those.
Bro, that's some big words for me, man.
And man, just sharing the space with you, WaLLrus, dude, your brain needs to be studied for science. I love it, man.
Let's keep them around for a while, though.
Yep.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. WaLLrus, where can we find you? By the way, Bitcoin 21,000. Perhaps we get to 100K by the end of this show. All right. Kidding.
Let me find my Robinhood app. Hang on. Let me get this going.
That's right.
Come by the top.
You want to buy some AMC stock as well?
Oh man.
Yeah.
This stream is great, guys. I appreciate it. I'm gonna start doing more. It's taken me a while to set up the little studio here and some of these things. So I've been working on a lot of stuff in the background. I really respect what Rags was just saying about with HEX, and that's some of the reason that I do some of the things the way I do. I love LL. It's going to be incredible. But if you want to build,
can't wait for LL.
Thanks, brother. Yeah. But if you want to build something in the space and you're from the ecosystem, then you go build it. You go build it and make it work. And you don't ride off the coattails of RH. Don't eat off HEX's plate. Go do it yourself and make those things work. So I'm very particular about those things the way I do them. When I come to spaces, when I do certain things, I do an LL space every week and I talk about those things and I have it in those rooms. And it was something I was very careful about with like How To Pulse. We didn't put our project on there because because of howtopulse.com wasn't for us. It was for Pulse. It got built for that reason. It got shielded in all the main rooms because it was for the community. It wasn't for us. So we didn't use it for those reasons. And that's something that's been a really, really big thing for me along the way. Like you want these things, you want them to be valuable, cool, go build them your damn self. So yeah, I absolutely appreciate it coming on. It's WaLLrus with 2 L's official on Twitter. I'm on all the telegrams as well. I'm actually just dropped a podcast as well and did the first episode. I'm glad I made it out. It was with a vampire. I realized everybody's mad at Jack. I am a little frustrated with some of the comments he made as well. But bro, high fives don't pump the price. So I love to come to these shows and speak to everybody. It doesn't make the price go up. New buyers, new eyes, new capital makes the price go up. So even if you don't like Jack, one, the conversation is really good. It doesn't actually have anything to do really with crypto too much. It's more about just philosophy and talking to a smart guy. His IQ might be a little lower after the last couple of nights, but he's a very, very smart guy, right? So it's something I said on the stream. If someone like Jack disagrees with you, don't just assume that he's stupid. Realize that guy has a lot to offer and figure out why. Doesn't mean that he's actually right or wrong, but that exploration is important. So it's the Weigh In with WaLLrus podcast, obviously with 2 L's. So weigheinwithwalrus.com /Spotify, Apple, all any of those things. It's a good conversation. I put a little teaser out. I'm going to be doing more conversations. There'll be people you like. There'll be people you don't like. But it's going to be valuable. And I'm trying to grab new eyes. That's the reason I started talking about macro stuff. Rags and a few people do. Not a lot of people in the community do. That was somewhere I thought I needed to be. So yeah, I can talk about V3 and all this kind of stuff, but we've got people that are doing that now, and they're doing a really good job. So I don't need to go do that. I can express things on macro. I can go reach out to people outside of the community. It's the reason, again, I don't have the WaLLrus PFP. I'm just filling the next role. I was an admin for a while. I worked at How to Pulse. I was an admin again for PulseX. I've moved around. I'm going to keep finding a place to be valuable. So just realize that's what it is, guys. I ain't never swapped up one time. I never asked anyone for no money. None of those links have gone to me. People can come to me. They can DM me anywhere. I try to answer all that stuff. So I've never been shy about those things. And maybe RH doesn't work for you guys. I actually do. And I'm obviously teasing about that comment. I'm just saying I actually am here for the community. This is what I do. So I appreciate and love you guys. Thanks for all the gratitude. And yeah, we'll keep building cool stuff.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Can't wait to see what the rest of this year holds. We're obviously just at the beginning of it. And, some crazy price action to start. Will it hold? Who knows? ETH is now above 1,500. Bitcoin 21.2. HEX at 2.7.
Cabana, it's because of your stream. That's why this
let's
is
just
happening.
keep going until we get to like a dime on HEX.
Get the 50 cents on HEX.
Let me plug everything in. We're going to be on till 3 cents. Let's go. Get them in, guys. We're not playing. We're here till 3 cents.
And buy button. Go, everybody.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys. Rags to Riches, WaLLrus, chat. You guys were awesome as always. Thank you so much. As I said briefly earlier, Patrick and Abit will be on next week. Still trying to figure out a day that's just on my end due to my travel schedule. It could be any day from Wednesday to Friday. Right now, I think we're scheduled for Thursday, but I'll confirm. Obviously, you know the drill. Just follow on Twitter, and I'll post the show times and updates there. Michael Light, yes, no sleep till 3 cents. Yes.
Whoa.
So as we leave you, Bitcoin, Ethereum, HEX, they're all pumping. Take care, everyone. Well said, Mo Tony, and we will see you next week. Again, one more thanks to Rags and WaLLrus, and we'll see you soon. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you.